champions fall and underdogs rise, anything can happen in the battleground of the gods. It is time.
She claps in, but she's still alive. Is it 1 HP? Beautiful ult from her who locks the fall in. SOT, triple, quad, one more, pentakill. Untouched, unscathed.
Are looking to be world champions again. Be United keep on going. Rivals are in the back. They can't do it.
Everyone from Flies in the Titan Room. Gang Gaming of launching down mid-lane.
Pittsburgh Knights, lightning strikes twice.
Vamos, vamos, vamos. Untouched, unscathed. Bow down to your king.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another beautiful SMITE update show. I am Titan Dandy, and I am honored to be here to bring y'all the final season of SMITE's Year 10, the Season of Worlds. What a journey it has been to get here to this crazy final season as we make our way towards SWCX. We've gone through 4 other incredible seasons through insane amount of changes, but we're not done yet. We have SWC right around the corner, and I am just so hyped for us to get there. And to join in the hype, I have 2 guests, 2 people that SMITE could not live without, Aggro and Lermy. How are y'all?
What up? Yo, doing great. Excited as always to show off a lot of the cool stuff we've been working on.
Yeah, same. I mean, it's going to be a great thing. You know, we have, you saw the video there, you saw the trailer for Season of Worlds. We have all these really cool decorations on the map. Like,
Yep.
Battleground has been kitted out to get ready for Worlds. You know, we're on the way there, and it's just, I'm hype. Every day we have a countdown. We have like whiteboards with countdowns on them that we pass by every day, and we're like, bro, it's on the way. So, oh, I'm just so hyped. So we have a ton of stuff to go over, a whole lot of stuff. But I'm going to start off with some news, like I always do. So to get right into it, first up, community news, SMITE cosplay contest. Don't forget about it, right? Because time is running out. We have, let me double check. I don't want to say this wrong. November 27th, all right? So make sure that you're checking out November 27th. So the contest, pardon me. But like I said, I'm just so hype about this. I've been thinking about it forever. Get your cosplays in. Remember, it's through Twitter that we have a blog about it if you need the information. But go on for the contest and tweet before November 27th for a chance to show off. And bring it to Worlds, too, if you're coming out. Like, bring it out. You and your friend, you and your family member, just yourself. Bring it and show off because you know people are going to want to be taking pictures and having fun with that. So that's super exciting. Next up, got some merch talk we're going to do. Y'all seen the SWC merch go live. I am so hyped about it. I was up in that store checking things out. I just could not be more excited about it, honestly. It's so many different things. All the team shirts, all the merch, the hats. I want one of those, like the tracksuit they had. There's just so many things. My wallet is weeping, but I am ready for the World Championship. So make sure to check it out, shop.hirezstudios.com to get all that really cool merch. So last but not least, we have something cool. It's kind of a spoiler, a little bit of a spoiler, but it's in the next section, so we'll get there right away. As Year 10 comes to a close, we wanted to continue celebrating, continue hitting these big things, because Year 10 has been all about a combination of our history and all of these exciting new changes, right? We love remembering what got us here through these 10 incredible years, as well as bringing things new, bringing things, you know, to the forefront. So one of the cool things that we're bringing out is a twist on a legendary SMITE skin, one that has gone down in history as one of the more famous SMITE skins, but updated with some technology that we brought out more recently. And that is a new Poseidon skin called Poolseidon. Or Coolseidon for the pool side. You know what I'm getting at. So it's coming back. We're going to get into it in just a second. But it's one of those skins that's classic. It's a historic part of SMITE, and we wanted to revamp it with the Color Forge technology, so the ability to change its color, as part of, our final, pushing towards the end of our year 10, just bring back one more crazy piece of our history. And a good thing to know about it is that each cool Sidon skin sold will benefit 2024 SMITE esports. So, it's not only are we bringing this back as a celebration of the 10 years of SMITE, but we're continuing the tradition of having this skin benefit the community and benefit the things that y'all love by having it benefit esports in 2024. So we'll get into showing off the skin here in just a minute, don't worry, but I wanted to throw that out there because it's just, we're continuing to bring back these things that have created the legacy of SMITE over the 10 years. So anyway, I've talked enough. I could talk all day, you know how I am. So let's get in to a new event, the Color Forge event. Color Forge Worlds Collide. So I said that I've talked a lot. I'm going to keep talking because the event is, if you're not familiar with Color Forge, one of those events. We'll get into what that system means for those of you who don't know, but the event itself has brand new skins that you can get and a whole brand new variety of dyes to use with the Color Forge skins. So you can get the dyes through the chest. There are weekly missions, as these events do, but you also have the ability to go to the quest tab and earn a free skin, the little Charmer Cupid skin. So if you remember the last Color Forge event, actually, this was a skin you could have earned back then as well, but if you missed your opportunity there, it will be a free quest reward through this event, so make sure to grab it. And it is a Color Forge skin, so you'll be able to use all of these fantastic dyes. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with what the Color Forge system is, let me be brief in explaining that it is a super cool new tech we added a little while ago that lets you take Color Forge applicable skins. It's not every skin, it's the Color Forge skins, let's be clear, but you can apply dyes to them. And the dye changes the skin's color, so like the apparel, and the ability effects. So it is truly a dye across the entire shape of the kit. And we're adding new ones. Now, the cool thing about this, for those of you who don't know, because this is the second time we've really rolled out a big Color Forge release, is that all dyes work with all Color Forge skins. It doesn't matter if you get some of the new dyes we're about to talk about and you want to rock them on the raw ramen skin that came out last time, go for it. They always work with each other. So we're adding new color to skins you may already own and giving you new and exciting skins to use the new and old colors with. So super cool system. I absolutely love it. I'm amazed at how they built the system out, and I'm going to stop talking now and we're going to get into some skins. So the first skin we're going to talk about is Intergalactic Harvester Thanatos.
This skin's so epic.
It very much is.
I think it's even really fun too that Color Forge can be applied to the skin because everything about this skin changes. The card art you see here, nice reds and whites and chromes and even a little bit of gold touches here or there, but you throw on bubblegum and that guy goes completely pink. It's great.
I love that you called out bubblegum because, I don't know why. I land on bubblegum a lot.
We had a long discussion we were waiting for our playtest to start, and we had a good 10 minutes on which dyes everyone preferred. You and Ro are in the same camp. He is also a bubblegum main. Lermy was not as convinced.
Listen, there's so many cool new colors coming out as well. It's
true.
Bubblegum is great. It is very girl boss moment as well, which you always love to see. But there's lots of other cool new ones as well that I can't wait to show off for you guys.
Oh, I'm excited for it. But first, let's dive in game for this. I want to see. I love the Color Forge stuff. I want to see it in game. Oh, and look at that. The SMITE World Championship, Season X, SWCX, right there in the mid lane. Absolutely incredible.
Love getting just this reminder of I got to start getting hyped for Worlds every time I load into a match. It just really sets the tone for me right away and gets me amped up right away.
Yeah, and I mean, what a great skin, and I love the jump stamp too. If y'all peeped that, so looking good. So absolutely glorious. And again, so many things about this skin will change. You're gonna see.
Little planet.
Oh wow, you're right. You're going to see the colors of the skin itself change. So all of the gray, all the red, completely different. If that's your style, rock it. If you want to go pink, do that. You'll see the effects change. It's such a cool system because especially if you have all the old dyes, which, how many are there? 8? 10? It's a lot of dyes.
It's a lot.
It's a solid amount.
Yeah, it turns every skin into 8 different skins. So absolutely incredible with this one and super hyped up about it. And so this is the first one. The second one is one I just spoiled a second ago, and that is called Cool Sidon Poseidon. So for those of you who are SMITE fans, a throwback of Cool Sidon. See?
He's
Cool
ready.
Sidon.
Prepared for today. And again, it was just something that we wanted to bring back to honor the 10 years. Because, that skin it's a skin of legend in our community.
Yeah.
In all honesty.
And I know for the Poolsidon owners out there that are worried about their exclusivity and all that kind of stuff, I know that Poolsidon is still poolside.
Oh, yeah.
Like that.
It is.
Totally separate.
It's its own
Completely
thing.
different thing.
Cool Sidon is this new cool skin with all the color forge and all that kind of great stuff. But Pool Sidon users can still flex if they want to.
Yeah. And that's a super important note to bring back, is that Poolsidon is very much its own thing. Like, if you are an owner of Poolsidon, you are still legendary. You still have that as your bragging right. You get to showcase that in front of the world for the whole world to see. But this is something completely different as kind of a milestone. You know, it was such a huge thing. We wanted to bring it up with this new technology. So I think we'd be doing it injustice without diving straight into game to see this cool-tastic skin. So let's check it out.
Iconic. And one of the best voice packs in the entire game.
Honestly, so true.
It is great.
I'm very excited that more people get a chance to use that
and then
voice pack.
Bowel.
Yeah, classic.
It's such a good skin.
The Quacken, I mean, all of it just, I mean, it's one of the most sought after skins for a reason. Like, it's awesome.
And the best part about this is that everything changes from the Quacken itself to the watercolor. All of that goes in a number of different colors depending on what you pick. There are some that look really, really cool on him. Like, there's a couple multicolor ones that I gotta say are some of my favorites. So definitely be sure that you're checking those out when you get to see all those different colors on this skin, because they look incredible.
Exactly. And now we're at a great time to talk about some of the new colors. Obviously, with the World Championship on the way, we couldn't release a color forge without giving you some team colors. So part of this will be the World's Chest. There's a World's Chest, and you can unlock some of these in other ways. But the World's Chest will contain a chance to unlock every different SPL team's die kit. So you can take these skins and rock your favorite SPL team's colors going through matches. So you want to be cool siding, rocking whatever, like supporting your team, you're out there on the battleground doing it in style with the Quacken. So honestly, just super cool. I love Color Forge tech. I love that we're able to do this, and super excited to talk about the event. So now we have some additional skins we're going to talk about, some of those that fall out of the big events. We have a chest, the Winter Wonderland chest, coming through, and this one is going to have 2 skins in it, the first of them being Midnight Freeze X-Ball.
Yeah, this one I was looking forward to. This one is really, really cool. Just X-Ball is like, his weapon is just so unique that I'm always really excited to see what the team comes up with for making a skin. Like, how do we change those bolas? You know, what direction are they going to go with that? And this one is absolutely awesome.
Yeah, it looks like it would both give you frostbite and maybe, like, you know, cut you up a bit.
Yeah.
So that would hurt, I think.
Double lethal on that. So this will be the first of the skins available in the Winter Wonderland chest, the second of which is a Yule Cheer Aphrodite.
So we're going from a really strong, badass-looking guy to just having a good time during the holidays, giving out some gifts, making people happy, showing the love. It's just a very warm themed card. I just think it like brings the spirit of the holidays.
Yeah, it makes me think of that like Fenrir skin card art where he's got like the sweater and he's
and the hot
by the
cocoa.
fire. Yeah,
True.
That's one of my favorite card arts we've ever done. This one, you know, I love our badass skins, our scary skins, our, you know, spooky stuff. Everyone's always asking for spooky stuff, but I also like these wholesome like holiday ones at the same time. I think it's great.
It's
Get
very
in the
comfortable.
spirit.
Yep.
So those will be in the Winter Wonderland chest, which is coming with the update next Tuesday, so right around the corner. Now let's dive into some bonus stuff. So this isn't coming out until a ways into November. This is the bonus update, so you're going to have to wait for it a little bit. But we have one more skin coming with the Color Forge event, and this one is really hype. You might notice something a little different about this when we get into it. We have Rotten Rascal Baron Somni.
This one might be my favorite in the update.
Yeah.
It's hard to say,
Awesome.
but
Yeah.
it is just such a cool concept.
It is.
As you'll notice here, Baron is now a Baroness.
A Baroness.
And is looking really sick and really scary in a lot of ways as well.
Got the clown. The clown aesthetic is just, I don't know, I rock with it. Every time we release a clown-themed skin, I'm like, I'm terrified, but going to main it. So let's check this out in game, because it's just such a twist from the Baron we all know.
You remember that spooky thing I was just saying? That, you know, everyone's always asking for something spooky.
Yeah.
We like to deliver when it comes to that, for sure.
That's very true. And Baron does it so well, too. Baron is just naturally, as one of my favorite characters in the game, suits these spooky things very well, but such a dramatic change here. And again, if you missed me saying it, this will be a bonus update.
That's so cool. I hadn't seen
The
that.
animation is awesome.
I absolutely love that.
That is great.
But this is part of the Color Forge event in the bonus update. So you have to wait for the bonus. Okay, we got that out of the way. But it's Color Forge. That means you're going to rock all of the different colors that you already own, the SPL colors you pick up with the main update, like you're really going to be able to rock this skin in a variety of different colors and styles. So
Like Jazzberry Jam.
Like Jazzberry Jam, exactly. So for those Jazzberry stands out there, this is your update. So yeah, that's going to be the first. The second skin coming with the bonus update. Again, I'm gonna nail this into the ground. It's the bonus update. I have to say it because I want to see them right now, but I know I gotta wait. Is going to be the Portal Punk chest, and we're getting Portal Punk Janice.
Yep.
And that's why I said Mike.
Awesome.
That's why I said Mike, because this one is also so sick.
It is so sick.
That guy's just cool. Like,
I mean, look at the sunglasses.
if you're getting styled on by this guy, also he's like 50,000 feet tall in comparison to these poor chumps down here. And he's like 50,000 times cooler than them because he's got sunglasses bigger than their bodies.
Yeah. I don't know.
Bigger than multiple of
I don't know how
them.
to follow that up. You're right. That's just true. So not to call him out or anything, but if my brother's out there, he's a huge Baron main and Janet. This is his bonus update, you know. So it's
It is.
a gift from us to you. So, but those will do it. We have some more skins we're going to talk about, but that's going to do it for now because we have some we got some stuff to dive into. We got some balance to dive into.
Oh yeah.
All right. And I guess we're just going to hop right into it. So. Conquest, let's get this out of the way. There's just one little conquest change coming up. Obviously, you saw the decorations we're adding to the map. It's looking beautiful, but as we move towards Worlds, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. Like, we're letting our teams get ready and practice so that we see the best of the best play that they're practiced with on this map. But it does look beautiful and kitted up and like excited for SWC with the decoration. But it looks like shield buff is just getting a little touch up.
Yeah, to kind of like add to that preface that you were talking about, a little bit about the world's balance coming up is that this will probably be like the last really solid balance patch going into it. We're still going to be, of course, doing bonus balance and adjustments going forward, but don't expect like a ton of huge sweeping
There's
changes.
a little spice here.
There's some spice
a little
here.
spice, but
in this
not
patch
much.
specifically,
Right.
going forward is what we mean, that it's going to be a little bit toned down to make sure that the competitive viability of that event is staying intact.
Yep.
Nothing crazy switching up after this. This is going to be fun. This is going to be awesome. Going forward, a little bit more about that competitive nature.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, long story short, shield buff just getting a little bit of a decrease per level, looks like.
Yep, exactly. Shield buff has seen a lot of priority at the highest levels of play, speaking of getting ready for Worlds and SWC and all that kind of stuff. Shield buff value just seems to be a little bit too high right now in the duo lane.
Yeah,
in
towards the
particular,
lane.
how many protections you're getting. Getting the shield is good, but a lot of the focus becomes the protections that the buff gives you and how heavily that weights trades in your favor among ADCs in particular. So just wanted to reduce that a little bit.
Sounds fair. All right, so we're hopping from Conquest directly into some item nerfs. We've heard y'all talk a lot about the stuff you want to see change, so hopefully we're able to tackle some of that now. And let's dive right in with Breastplate of Determination.
Yeah, so a lot of the things that you're going to see in here are going to kind of go in a bunch of different directions. So this specifically has been a core kind of part of a couple of pain points talking about warrior solos and just like people building a little bit defensively in general, and that is due to, in part, a large part actually, of Breastplate of Determination. So we are completely reverting the change that we recently did to it to only the glyph. The base is still staying at its updates that it got recently, because before it was basically unpurchased, very unpopular, which
totally
is surprising because it got so popular basically overnight.
Yep.
But yeah, we are still happy with where the base is at. It's just this glyph is kind of way too much. We're bringing it back.
Yes.
Got it. Rock and roll. So moving on, another nerf, Fablessed Hoops.
Yeah, so Fablessed Hoops. This one is one that we are really excited about.
very
Got to give a quick shout out to Chaos, the lead programmer here at Titan Forge. This is a highly requested change from the pros on adding an internal cooldown to Fablessed.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as simple as just tacking it on there.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have worked intuitively or the way that we really wanted it to, but Chaos was able to find a really unique way and find us some moments to get in exactly what we wanted to happen. So now Fablessed, if you use something, let's say, I don't know, Yamoja 2, which might just be the whole reason why this had to happen. If you use Yamoja 2, if your Fablessed is off cooldown, it will drop a flower for each ally that it hits along the way.
Got it.
But it will trigger the cooldown on the first ally that drops a flower. If you then use Yamoja 2 again while the item is on cooldown,
Got it.
no flowers will spawn.
Yep.
Okay.
But as soon as it comes off of cooldown, if you're mid to bounce to an ally, they will drop a flower, proc the cooldown, and then it will go off. So basically, the easy way is the ability that triggers Fablessed is able to still drop a flower for each unique god on your team
Got it.
that walks into it, which is the functionality that we really felt like was important to
Yeah.
keep it good. But it won't be nearly as abusable by some gods that may or may not be Yemoja and Yemoja.
Well, glad to hear that those specifically or super non-specific use cases have been toned down a little bit.
Yes.
So next up, we have Fail Not on the list.
Yeah, so this is kind of shifting lanes a little bit
Yeah,
over to
moving a little
the
bit.
duo side, where we've seen a lot of hunters start to pick up this item, especially in this kind of hybrid basic attack and crit build where you can get a little bit of both worlds.
Yep.
This item just had a lot of different things on this passive to where we decided, you know what, all these other things that it does, this is great. It doesn't also need to reduce damage of the enemy that gets marked by it. It's already a great item, doesn't need this extra bit on top.
Yep.
Sounds good. Well, now we're going to some bling with Telkind's Ring, also getting a nerf.
Yeah, Telkind's and Enchanted Ring both getting a little bit of a nerf here. They're just
Yeah.
kind of going hand in hand. Magical ADCs have been really, really strong in the duo lane,
have.
and we do like to have some variety there. You know, we don't want it to completely remove these gods from the meta, but they've just been a little bit too prominent for too long, and so we're just taking some power out of Telkind's and Enchanted Ring in particular in order to just bolster up some hunter play there.
Yeah, essentially in the early game as well, because Telkind's
Yes.
tends to be the first one that you're buying,
Yeah.
and Enchanted Ring also helps bring down that like power spike a little bit when you've only got the tier 2, and that does affect every single ring. So
Yep.
even though that effect onto Telkind's is the greatest, you're still getting a little bit at other points in the game as well.
Got it. So next up, kind of moving moving to a lower tier on the item tree here with Tiny Trinket and Enchanted Trinket.
Yeah, so this is going to be a whole grouping of items. It's probably going to be best to explain these kind of all at the same
Let's
time.
dive into
So
the group then.
First things first, Tiny Trinket is the tier 1 of the lifesteal tree. So everything in the magical lifesteal tree comes from Tiny Trinket. The cost of this item is going up to 600, and you're probably like, well, only some of these lifestyle items are kind of like problems right now, you might say. So to kind of compensate for that, we are also increasing Enchanted Trinket, which is the tier 2.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of shifting around where the money is. So essentially, you're still getting that increase at that tier 2 of Tiny Trinket, or sorry, Enchanted Trinket, which is on the side of Pythags and Soul Gem.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the items that are remaining the same, that are not getting affected by this at all, are Soul Gems, so that's actually getting a price decrease to kind of compensate for that. So it's staying the same exact price
Yep.
at $23.50. Talon Trinket also staying the exact same price. Bancrofts, the Glyphs, and Typhons, all of those guys, same exact price as they were before. It's only the tier 1 and the tier 2 of Enchanted Trinket that are getting changed there.
Yep.
Pythags is a little bit of a separate case because it is still retaining that price increase, and it's also getting a decrease of max health.
Yes. So this is the mage solo section that
Yes.
you were looking for.
Yeah.
Basically, is
There
the
it
way to
is,
think
yeah.
about it, right? We just want to this build gets online really early,
Yeah.
and then has a lot of stats that these mages care about. It has health, it has cooldown, it has power, it has lifesteal, and that coupled with either the cooldown buff from the blue totem or the lifesteal buff from the red totem,
Yeah.
Or silver.
silver, right, exactly. It compounds very quickly.
Got it.
So we just want to slow down this early game. We think that the Breastplate of Determination nerf will more heavily affect these solo mages
Yeah.
than other archetypes. And then we are increasing the cost for Pythag's piece in particular, as Lermy said, slowing it down in the early game.
Yeah.
Decreasing the health on Pythag's piece from 200 to 150.
Yeah.
And then also we'll have some nerfs for Vampiric Shroud and Blood-Soaked Shroud, just taking 5 power off of both of those.
Yeah.
It isn't, it doesn't seem like any one really intense nerf.
Yeah.
But this is a lot of their items that they're going
Yeah.
are all being touched in, or not all, but most are being touched in some way.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And as a spoiler, we've got a lot of warrior buffs coming to some of their itemization and things like that. We didn't want to overdo it,
Yeah, of course.
but we also wanted, this has been a heavy community topic that we wanted to make sure felt like was appropriately addressed.
Yes.
So this is something that we are going to be very closely monitoring. Bonus balance is not too far away. And if it seems like we undershot our target and warriors are still not able to compete quite enough, then you can probably expect more changes in that bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last thing to mention in this, section, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
is that the change to Vampiric and to Tiny Trinket is going to heavily impact the early game,
Yeah.
especially because the cost increase means you get one less pot, and the power on Vampiric Shroud means that clearing is going to be a little less good as well. So you
Yep.
are getting less sustain and less power going forward in this solo lane mage world.
Yeah, well, awesome. I mean, that was a lot too. So if you weren't able to keep up, you know, that was a lot of changes, a lot of back and forth. Make sure to check out the update notes. They should be live now. If they happen to not be live now, it's because our website's in a headlock. We're trying to get it to do it. It's fighting us this week. It is fighting us. But it should be live now. So make sure you're following along. If you really want to get all of those details and read it for yourself, it's all there. So I guess you talked about item buffs. I guess it's time to dive into item buffs. But we're kicking it off with Absolution, a little bit of max health.
So Absolution is a really cool item.
It is.
And it's unfortunate because we haven't seen very much of it. And that's mostly, in our estimation, due to just the challenge of being able to keep your team coordinated and playing around it, and also having to spend such an expensive resource like an ultimate to actually get that cool effect. So one thing that we're trying to do is we like that high risk reward challenge area of it. We just kind of want it to be more stat efficient for when you're not actually like getting that incredible reward, because again, it is very challenging to do. We just want to make sure that you're not sad if you mess it up and you're like, well, now I just have not great stats at this point.
No, that makes perfect sense. Another item that at least I don't see super often, Abyssal Stone, getting a little bit of a touch-up.
Yeah, I'm an Abyssal Stone abuser for sure. I love this item, and we're just giving it a little bit more magical protection.
Got it.
So much of what makes these mage solos really oppressive is that they just have more abilities to use. They're just, with their cooldown reduction, all that kind of stuff we just touched, they're just using so many abilities. Abyssal Stone can slow that down. And so by giving it a little bit more magical protection, makes it a little bit more efficient, can be a good second item for these warriors in the solo lane, potentially even a first item if you don't need the help clearing, and that should hopefully help their lane a little bit and remove some of that strength of what they're relying
just
on.
tone it down a little bit, make it more manageable.
Yep.
Cool. So next up is Amulet of Silence.
Yeah, this is another cool one as well, because Amulet of Silence, just like base stat wise, is very, very good. But the passive is pretty inconsistent. When you get it off, it feels great. But the thing is that it's very hard to actually purposefully play around, because it requires, again, enemies to do something, and it requires them to do a lot of things. So by the time it actually happens that you can do it, it's kind of too late by that point. They've already cast their whole kit. So to kind of address that, we want to bring the stat count down from 4 to 3. So it takes 3 abilities that you have to be in range with, and it also can happen every 12 seconds now.
Okay,
so
cool.
Make sure that you're sitting around them. Try not to get hit, but
try not to get hit, but if it happens, like, you're ready.
Yeah, exactly.
Next up, Erendite, kind of a shifting the speed around.
This is spicy.
Yeah, this one is a little bit spicy. Erendite, when you can make use of the passive, it's really, really good. But it's time-gated. Not every god uses that passive super well. And there was so much strength in the passive that we felt like we couldn't make the overall base item better because the passive was so strong. So we're doing a little bit of a shift here. We're removing some of that strength from the passive. We're decreasing the movement speed on the Erendite proc from 30% to 20%. But you're just going to get 7% movement speed all the time. So it's kind of like a katana. The katanas are normally the movement speed items, but Erendite is an assassin-specific item, really, that is really designed for them. So giving them that movement speed feels appropriate and should hopefully make this item a little bit more consistent.
Yeah, even though it's less movement speed overall, just the fact that you have it all the time, very, very strong.
It makes up for that 3%.
Yeah, exactly.
So now to move on to just bonk, just some pure bonk. Brawler speed stick, getting some more power.
Yeah, so we're keeping an eye on those healers and self-sustainers going into Worlds, which is a very important time that we got to make sure that everything's under control there. So we kind of want to incentivize a little bit more Brawlers purchases. Sometimes it can feel like a pretty big trade-off if you're going this relatively early, first or second. You're like, am I trading a Joltons? Am I trading a Transcendence? That has a lot of power. This is going to make it so that trade that you have to do is not as painful, you might say.
Got it.
For you, not for them.
The enemy is going to have...
whoever you're hitting.
Yeah, not a good time.
It's going to be pretty rough. But so next up, Corrupted Bluestone. Looks like overall just getting a little bit of a touch-up.
Yeah, I mean, Bluestone, we know we have to be very careful with base Bluestone and then
it has history.
Bluestone Brooch, because it can become dominant very quickly. But Corrupted Bluestone just hasn't been able to fill the more defensive side of the Bluestone upgrade. If you're an offensive character like a Sun Wukong, Bluestone Brooch feels great. But for those characters that want to get a little bit tankier in the end game, but really like Bluestone to help clear them early, gods like Vamana, something like Corrupted being more viable can help them a lot. So we are just increasing that damage over time duration from 5 seconds to 6 seconds. That means it just does more damage because we're not adjusting the damage itself. And we're increasing the protection increase per stack from 4% to 5%. And percent increases of a number that's already pretty big most of the time. You'll be mid 200s for protections, hopefully. we think that this will be pretty impactful.
Oh,
Yeah, that sounds huge. I mean, again, it's a constant thing in this. You think 1%, you're like, oh wow, it's 1%, and then you realize
Times a couple
you're
times.
like, that's whew.
Yep.
So last gasp next up looks like it's getting a couple seconds worth of love to both the buff and the internal cooldown.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the healing kind of countering.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the healing bolstering as well, because Last Gasp is a really interesting item where it is a little bit difficult to use, and we're kind of happy with that challenge of needing to be very particular about who you're healing to get that extra burst of power, but we want it to be a little bit easier to not have to worry so much about, am I using my Last Gasp proc, am I like wasting
getting
it,
it off?
essentially. So what we've done is we've kind of increased the consistency of it by going for a longer buff duration and a decreased internal cooldown. So what this means is you could have it up 100% of the time, but most characters aren't going to have a heal at this 8-second timer. So
That's
this is really just you not having to worry so much about, again, like wasting a proc on someone that's closer to full health. If you do want to get that proc, it will almost certainly be up every single time that you've got that healing ability.
Rock and roll, yeah, that sounds good. Now, you gotta love a mechanic that you gotta work for, but it's a little forgiving. You know?
Yep.
So Mail of Renewal next on the list, kind of on the similar tree anyway.
Yeah, similar here. I mean, Mail of Renewal, we're happy with how it feels for the god purchasing the Mail of Renewal. They get the heal all at once whenever the passive is triggered.
Yeah.
But allies around them, they receive that heal over 10 seconds. And
That's a long time.
in a MOBA like SMITE, that's basically an eternity.
It's a whole team fight.
So we are just going to cut that time in half. The overall heal is remaining entirely the same.
Exactly.
Got
It's
it.
just getting to you in half the time. So hopefully that'll make it feel a little bit more consistent.
Makes sense. So Manticore Spikes next up, one of those fun new items. Just getting some health though.
Yeah, so this is a fun item, right? So
It
you
is.
can do a lot of CCing, you get to pick up the spikes and do a little bit more damage, and
Yeah.
that damage is based on health. So being able to kind of have a bigger contribution from the item itself is just going to help to also increase that
Yeah,
damage a
feeds
little bit
into
more. So
passive.
a little bit tankier, a little bit more damage in turn. So just a nice little buff for Manticores.
Rock and roll. Mantle of Discord is next on the list. Little bit of a decreasing cost.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have told me like a year and a half ago that Mantle is like completely fallen out of the meta, like no one buys it, I would have been like, what has happened?
Yeah, what's going on?
World, the sky is falling.
Did we remove the stun or did we remove the cleanse? Because if it has both of those, I feel like it's got to be really good.
Yeah.
But we're just seeing that Mantle of Discord's purchase rate is way down and its win rate is also way down. So it just needs some help in that. 2,900 gold. This is for more tanks than backline, hopefully. 2,900 is just so expensive for
a lot.
supports. 2,750 still puts in the luxury tier for them for sure, but it is such a potent effect that we want to make sure that it isn't too accessible, especially early on in the game.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, another one of those really fun items that like always goes into the fun builds, I think. Relic Dagger plus its glyphs getting a little bit of cooldown reduction.
Yeah, this is actually a huge one, I think,
is.
because
I agree.
being able to get those relics up a little bit faster, 10 seconds faster, is not a small amount by any
Oh, no.
means. And especially how this contributes to Eldritch Dagger as well, to where you'll be able to get that Eldritch passive way more frequently as well. I mean, this is just such a very fun buff for a fun item that just has a little bit trouble slotting in sometimes.
So we're bringing it in there. There's your 10 seconds. Go crazy. Sentinel's Boon is up next. A little bit of increased health and some gold assist, it looks like.
Yeah, the Boon Goons just needed some help.
That's true.
We heard their cry for help, and we decided to give it to them. Just increasing that health restore in the assist gold. This is the more selfish is the word that comes to mind, but even for supports, you're not really spending that gold selfishly.
Yeah.
But it is the income-focused upgrade, especially in that tree, and we just wanted to make sure that it felt competitive with Sentinel's Embrace, which is just so strong for its aura capabilities.
And the thing to consider about this as well is that 20 gold per assist seems insane, right?
A lot.
Seems crazy. This is gated by being the lowest gold on your team, though. So the second that you're not the lowest gold anymore, you're not getting that assist gold anymore.
not a
So
problem. So,
that's not even a problem to worry about.
You're not
It'll
going to
catch you up, though.
Yes, it will catch you up. It will keep you aligned.
Yes.
I love that I've been doing this show for so many years, and like I feel like every show you hit me with something new. So now Boon Goons is going to be part of my SMITE dictionary now.
Yeah.
So Silver Branch Bow up next.
Yeah, Silver Branch, I mean, we talked about the magical ADCs being really prevalent. You look at the physical ADCs that are seeing play right now in the duo lane. It's things like Onher, Hachiman, not exactly your stim hunters. And when we think of what stim hunters like more than other traditional hunters, it's Silver Branch Bow. You know, this is where they can get their payoff for their big attack speed stim in the late game. We're just going to lean into its strength on that passive. We've seen in the past when the base stats of this item are too good, everyone just buys it, and it's not really unique for, being used for its passive. We want to keep it in line with that identity, but reward those types of characters who can use it well.
Yep.
Rock and roll. Well, I was on the battleground. I actually passed a garage sale. Staff of Mirrodin looked like it was on sale for a little cheaper. Is that true?
It is true. It is true. Kind of like Silver Branch, but for a different class of characters, for the mages. There are only some characters that like to play with Mirrodin very well. I can think of a couple off the top of my head, but those guys are just going to get a little bit of help in the way that you could kind of go into this a little bit more easily now. 50 gold off is not insane. Because this item has good stats already. It's just a little hard to justify going into.
Yeah.
It's pretty expensive.
Rock and roll. Sounds good. So Vision Shard coming up next for those ward enthusiasts.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of support focus buffs in this patch, and this is another one. All the shards, they're exciting, immediate effects. It doesn't feel quite as exciting to get vision, but oftentimes it can actually be more valuable than the actual shard that you could have had in that spot. It felt like with the strength of shards as they are, we're happy with how good, all Carapace and Horn Shard and Wing Shard, all of those feel really, really good. We just don't want to bring everything down to Vision Shards level. We just want to bump it up a little bit. Yeah. So if you are a Vision-focused player, the Vision Shard will be a little bit stronger.
A little more of an ally to you. So to round out item buffs, it looks like we're getting some Axe love. So starting with Warrior's Axe.
Yes, so Warrior's Axe, the starter, is going to be getting increased sustain from 20 plus 1 to 30 plus 1.5 per level. This is actually a revert from a previous point in time to when it was very strong. So we're trying to give those warriors that would like to use this axe a little bit better of a time in the early game, especially considering that sustain aspect, which will help them keep fighting, keep up with that attack. And so that's kind of the early game idea for axe. Going into the late game, though, we've got Axe of Animosity up first, which is the health-focused one. This one's just going to get increased health from 250 to 300. And like we were talking about for Manticore Spike, because this item does damage based on health, the more health you have, the more damage you're doing. So you're getting a little bit of contribution both ways for that one.
Awesome.
Yep.
And then finally, Sundering Axe. This is also going back to a previous value. It's getting more protection scaling from previously 1.5, now back up to 2%, and that's just going to help you do a little bit more of that poke damage, be a little bit more threatening as a late game warrior.
Rock and roll. Well, all super good, and that does it for the item balance, but we got gods coming up. But this is the point where I say, remember to check out those patch notes if you want to really follow along and see all these numbers and read it with us, because these are some good changes, and we have a few really neat ones I'm excited for us to get into as we get into gods. But first off, we're going to start with some nerfs, and we're going straight to Athena. What's up?
Yeah, so Athena has been really, really strong for a little bit now. At all levels of play, she's seen a lot of success, but what she does is fairly one-dimensional. She just has very good setup CC and a global ultimate, and the other parts of her kit are there, but that isn't where a lot of her power budget, so to speak, is really spent. We don't want to completely remove this feature if we don't have to of the attack speed debuff from Confound. We feel like that is a big feels good for Athena. That as good as Confound is and as good as it seems right now, there were years recently where it felt like this ability had fallen off in its usefulness. So we still want for her to maintain some amount of agency in surviving a little bit easier when she uses Confound, but we just want her to earn it through the ranks. So instead of just starting at 30% and remaining 30% throughout the game, it will now be a little bit easier to damage her when she taunts you in the early game, scaling that Confound up to that 30% when she maxes it.
That makes sense. Logical change. Cool. So next up, a little creepier, Baba Yaga. Looks like the cabin and the brew both getting adjusted a little.
Yeah, so for Baba, it's very interesting because you would think there's a lot of really cool stacking item opportunities for Baba to go in the actual like mage-oriented tabs. We're not seeing that. We're seeing some thieves, we're seeing some prophetic cloaks, and in general, it's not that we want to discourage her from stacking, but we wanted to make sure that if she is stacking these items, she's going about it a little bit more organically to make sure that she is actually going through the motions. So she is going to get basically in her passive, she gets stacks from moving her house around, from doing all of those things, and so she needs more stacks now on her house to be able to convert those into actual item stacks. So just a little bit harder to stack up items now, and then additionally, even when she has these defensive items, it's kind of surprising sometimes how much damage she's actually doing with her abilities. So we wanted to target one of her kind of earlier abilities, which is Baba's Brew, which of course you can double up by putting one in your pocket and then pulling out the other one and hanging onto it for when you need it. So we're just bringing that base damage down a little bit across the board, and that's going to help take down her clear and just her late game ability to be tanky and do damage all at the same time.
Got it. Hey, I'm all for it. So, I mean, and what a crazy passive, too. It's one that I feel like I always forget exists, and then you start playing, and you're like, man, this is great. So it makes sense.
Feels nice.
So next up, a hunter that I feel like has gotten a lot of play recently, Chernobog.
Yeah, you'd be right. He has gotten a lot of play recently, and he's won a lot of those games. Yeah, we are hitting Chernobog pretty hard here. He's proven to be pretty nerf resistant after his spicy changes, and so we're hitting him in a couple places. Number one, Heart of Cold. This is his passive. It deals 20% of your basic attack damage as bonus damage to that target and in an AoE around them. We're decreasing that by 5% down to 15%. And that's really important in particular because when he uses his ultimate, he gets that explosion really quickly. It doesn't need that 3-stack sort of build up. So this is going to make his ultimate a little bit less potent offensively. We are increasing the cooldown of Crystallized Curses. That's his 1. It was going down by 1 second per rank, and this is an ability that you're maxing first. We're instead going to make that 0.5 seconds per rank. So now instead of dropping out at 11 seconds, it's now 13 seconds when that's maxed, which should be pretty impactful. And then the cooldown on Vicious Barrage, we like the direction that he's gone with this lower cooldown stim. It's so important to his kit. It's the catalyst for the AO1, but it was up a little bit. Just too often. So 7 to 8 seconds on that cooldown.
Especially with things like Fail Not being kind of in his wheelhouse.
Yes.
So getting that cooldown online really helped him out a lot.
Yes, it did. Yeah, he was abusing that a little bit too well.
Well, good to hear. So this next change, less words, but still pretty spicy looking. Maman Brigitte, one of our newest members.
Why don't you talk about it?
Yeah.
You know about Maman? All right.
I know a thing or two about Maman. Yeah, there's obviously been a lot of discussion. I read every single Reddit thread about Maman that comes out, and I definitely don't take anything personally ever. No, there's just been a lot of discussion. She is a character that is very polarizing. All damage-oriented characters are inherently polarizing because they just hit a point where they either do enough to kill you, and they're really good, or they don't do enough to kill you, and because they have next to no utility, they are basically worthless. So we want to be careful about how much damage we remove from Maman at a time. And looking at her stats, looking at the way that she's performing at all levels, we feel like we can still wait a little bit to see how her damage is kind of transforming as players do get better at playing against her. Players are also improving playing at her, and a big place we're seeing that is in the knockup immunity on Party Trick. It is really, really quick to come out. You don't have to expend an extremely long cooldown to do it. You can use it for knockup immunity, instantly cancel it. Use it for knockup immunity, instantly cancel it. That proved to remove too much counterplay from her. So we are just going to straight up remove the knockup immunity from Party Trick entirely. It will put it back at, you won't lose the cooldown. You won't initiate your slam if you're knocked up mid-fire breath. It will just cancel it out. But it's another opportunity to CC her, and we didn't want to give her. She has a lot of survivability tools already with a CC immune ultimate and a dash that it turns out people think is pretty good.
It is.
So we wanted to just remove one of those immunities from her so that people can have a little bit of an easier time against her.
Got it. That makes it. I mean, that's definitely one of those skill ceiling type things. Like you release it, first couple patches, not really a problem, right? But then people are starting to learn like how to flick that for the immunity. It's cool to watch people learn, but then you're like, oh wow, that's really strong when you get your hands on it. So
yeah, it was just one of the most requested changes that we saw in a lot of her threads. So we're happy to provide the community with a little bit of more opportunity to play against her, and hopefully this will reduce some frustration.
Got it. So we have one more nerf remaining in the God sections here, and that's Raijin. Got some drumming.
Yes. So Raijin got a spicy buff at a time where a lot of cooldown things happened all at once, and he likes the cooldown. That's like his whole thing, is that he's got a passive that refreshes cooldown. He got the new addition to his passive that also increases cooldown even more. So we're kind of shifting cooldown. You'll see that theme is the whole deal here with Mr. Raijin. So he was like the classic mage solo contender, where he's getting picked up more in solo than he was in mid, and a lot of that has to do with, again, the cooldown buff, breastplate being so good, all of these things kind of compounded, but we are also going to hit him because he was just overperforming in mid as well. So
Yes.
everywhere across the board, Raijin was good. So what are we actually doing? Well, first things first, charge tempo. This specific cooldown reduction that we're talking about here is when he does the 4 stacks of passive, uses that 5th ability, then it's only going down 1.5 seconds instead of the 2 seconds that it previously was. Next up, we've got Percussive Storm. This is his main clear ability, and this is on a flat 10-second cooldown that was also getting reduced by the basics, getting reduced by the passive, getting reduced by Blue Totem, all this stuff. We've been through this, but essentially, going up 2 seconds. So that may seem like a lot, but again, he's got a lot of ways to refresh this cooldown. So even though this may look like a big nerf, it has to be contributed through all of those different factors that we're talking about. Last thing, Thunder Crash. This is his movement ability. The cooldown is going up from 15 to 17, down to 15 again. So basically what this is going to do is make him a little bit more punishable in the early to the mid game. You're probably going to be leveling this one up last. So this is kind of your last couple levels. You will be going back to that 15 seconds, but until that point, that is 2 more seconds, minus a little bit here or there when you've got levels in it to be able to punish Raijin for getting out of position, going a little too crazy on the drums.
Yeah, I mean, he went from completely unplayable in the community sentiment to one of the best characters in the game, and the stats did reflect that, but we didn't give him very much damage. And the damage that we did give him, we already nerfed. He's not doing significantly more damage than before per ability cast. He's just casting more often than he was before. So this is probably some of the heaviest cooldown focused nerfs a character has ever gotten all at once. Hopefully this will make a big dent in Raijin's
It certainly should.
Yes, we expect it will.
Slow down that drum solo a little. So cool, that does it for God nerfs this time around. So just gonna highlight this. Obviously we love doing these, or we love getting these out to the community because we listen to what y'all are saying. We listen to y'all say, hey, this is really strong, maybe back it off a little, or maybe she doesn't need knock up immunity when she's spitting fire. So like, continue to give us this feedback, please. I'll say this every time because I love being in these conversations with y'all, even if it's not me, even if you're reaching out to somebody else or whatever. Just always throw these recommendations at us because it helps us find ways to make the game more fun for y'all. So just gotta get my spiel out of the way. I love thanking the community because y'all are awesome and I love you. So let's get into some buffs now, huh? Let's talk about which gods are getting stronger, starting with one of the beesiest boys, one of my favorite beesy boys, Amuzin Cub.
Yeah, AMC has really been absent from the meta for a longer period of time than is typical for him. We didn't want to increase his clear potential or his poke potential because those are really good. His all-in is also really good. But we were just taking a look at some abilities, and Swarm feels really quick because it's so big.
Yeah.
But when we looked at the actual like projectile speed, it was really slow.
It was one of the slowest in the game.
Comically slow.
Crazy.
And it doesn't feel that way, but it does translate into not hitting nearly as many of those swarms as you think you should be able to. So we are simply increasing its projectile speed by 33%. That may sound like it's going to be an instant auto hit all the time. It is not. It is not. You should notice a difference. You should not be getting hit by max range swarms that you see coming.
It is not unjukable. I would say it's even slower than things like Apollo 1 still.
Significantly slower.
But it's just a little bit more consistency there because we really did not want to give him more damage or utility. We just wanted consistency over anything else.
Yep.
Rock and roll. I love that y'all gave this really eloquent explanation, but in my head, the only thing I could think of is they gave him faster bees.
Bees fast.
So cool. So next up, God near and dear to my heart, Atlas, the big boy, getting some love.
Yes, so Atlas is a very interesting case because a lot of times he seems like he's really good, but the stats say he's not good. So thanks to our absolute data goat, Max, or Innocent Rabbit, as the community may know him as, we got a lot of detailed information as to why these characters are not performing as they should be, or perhaps why they're underperforming in some ways. And so the data that we were looking at Atlas, like through a bunch of various slices, was that essentially boiled down to a very simple reason why is that he's dying a lot.
Okay.
We're like, okay, so how can we help him like not die as much? Like more more deaths on average than many other Guardians in his class.
Oh,
Yep.
Okay.
So essentially what we are doing is to increase his physical protections per level in his just general existence, his
Yeah.
character,
His level up.
more or less, from 3.5 to 3.7. So it doesn't seem like a lot, but that's every single level you're getting that, so it's
Yeah,
going to
that's
add up over time. And then we are adjusting Gamma Ray Burst, which is his ultimate, and that is increasing the power reduction per stack from 2% to 3%. So whenever you put down that beam on enemies, it's going to make them deal less damage to you and essentially all of your other teammates as well.
Yeah.
So that's going to be keeping you alive a little bit as well, because they're not going to be able to hurt you as much. So you'll have to see that.
Nice. Well, shout out to the Goat Innocent Rabbit. Gotta love
That's
those
our goat.
numbers.
Yep.
So moving on to Shock, one of the classics here.
Yeah, classic indeed. Speaking of Max and some of the numbers we were diving in for Chalk, he just wasn't keeping up in damage in the later stages of the game. So that's why his laning phase is going well. His survivability is good. He just isn't providing enough threat in the later stages. So we're just giving him some more threat. 5% scaling on Thunderstrike, so that's the one.
Yeah.
And a little bit of base damage on Torrent. To the point now where when I'm playing Chalk mid, which I will be playing in a game near you very soon.
In a game near you.
But even on Chalk solo, I think Torrent is actually the right ability to max now. With this 40 base damage at rank 5 is a lot.
That's a lot. A lot of damage.
And gives him a lot of prots, fairly low cooldown. This ability is really, really good. So Chalk's a damage character now with these buffs.
Chalk is a threat.
You can build him tank and be fine, but you could also play him mid full damage and slam. That's my recommendation.
You heard it from the devs here first, so
A
get in
dev,
there.
singular, dev,
One
singular.
dev, yes.
Singular.
Lurmy is not a Chalk mid fan as I am.
You heard it from a single dev while the other dev was
shout out
leaning away
F-Dog.
and covering her face. So cool. Next up, the god that always makes me sweat because I know I never pronounced the name correctly, Kukulin.
Yeah, so
nailed it.
You did it, yeah.
Practice.
So Kukulin has not really had his time to shine this year one bit.
No.
He's been out of the meta even when Bluestone was really good. That tends to be when we see him a lot. And of course, he's probably not going to be there when Mage solos are very good either, because even though he's got a pretty decent early game, it just wasn't enough to contend with those. So alongside our warrior item buffs, we're also going to be giving Kukulin a buff because, again, he needs it since he wasn't even here when warriors were the strongest.
Yep.
So now he's getting a little bit of extra damage on Vent Anger. So this is both in his de-transformed and his transformed state, just going to be doing a little bit more damage. Not at rank 1 though, very important because again, that's like kind of his breaking point a little bit that you might say is like when he gets that transform off too early in lane and he's just able to get all of this free Vent Anger damage, you know, that can be a little bit dangerous in that lane.
Yep.
So getting it when you start to rank it up to give him a little bit more of that late game threat that we were talking about for Chalk, that's kind of it. And then this is the spicy one. This is the very important one that you're going to want to look out for in your games, is that Spear of Mortal Pain. And this is only Sphere of Mortal Pain, by the way, not Warcry, not when you're transformed. This cooldown is getting decreased from 100 seconds at all ranks to 100 to 80 seconds.
Yeah.
So a lot more threat in the late game like we were talking about. Kukulin, generally this very, very solid laning character, but falls off a lot in the late game.
Yeah.
Now you're going to at least have more chances to get into this transformed state, provide a really, really good teamfight ultimate on top of it. Going to see him a little bit more. I sure hope so after this.
Yeah. Really relies on that ultimate to generate enough rage to transform in the late game. It's a strong ult, but one that's pretty telegraphed, pretty slow, lots of ways to immune it. Not Momane 01 anymore, but lots of other ways. So we feel like we can give him more Spears of Mortal Pain because there's lots of Mortal Pain.
And again, not Warcry.
Not Warcry.
Not Warcry.
No.
Just in the most metal-sounding way ever, more spears of mortal pain.
That's right.
So next up, a less metal and much more cuddly, but like incredibly enjoyable god, Danza Burrow. I love Danza.
Yeah, Danza. Wow, we went spicier than this than I remembered. That was I was like, wow, I just remembered what we did here. The base damage on the 2 10 at all ranks because that ability doesn't hit that hard. Cool. No. We're not that excited about that. Well, we are, but we aren't. Tanuki Trickery. This is his 3. You know, where he does the dance. He's got his zone of empowerment, right?
His little garden.
ADC mains will tell you this ability is super good because it is really hard to trade against him when he's in that zone in particular because it was a ton of basic attack damage mitigation and he gets haste, you know, in that zone. Absolute beast when he's trading in there. For me, as a more mage player, I see him pop the 3 and I'm like, oh, he's faster. And that's all I don't really care about it otherwise.
Oh, no.
So they crush the whole circle.
Yeah, exactly.
Beside a whirlpool, the whole circle.
Yes. Here's a quack in your garden.
Surrounded with a Zeus ult.
Right, exactly. So we are changing it from basic attack damage mitigation to just damage mitigation.
All damage.
When he's in there. We are reducing it from 20% to 15%.
I mean, fair.
Because now you're getting so many more things mitigated. But we wanted this to feel like a more empowered empowerment zone for Danzaburo. So I'm interested to see what this does for our little Tanuki.
If Danza pops off a little bit. And
I've got a feeling he might.
Yeah, that's a great change. Cool. So next up, this is another one that's kind of spicy. We have Fenrir.
Yeah, a little bit.
And one of these involves something that we will show you. So keep your eyes on the screen.
Yes.
So let's dive into Fenrir.
Yeah, so before we actually get to that one in particular, we got to talk about Unchained.
One more.
This is the leap for Fenrir. And so Fenrir had a little bit of his time to shine at the beginning of the year, but he's fallen off quite a lot since the changes in the jungle meta. So essentially, this is, again, another consistency pass. We want to give him more chances to stun, more chances to be a little bit safer, engage with Unchained or disengage, whichever side it might be, and then brutalize. This is the important one that we're talking about here. So we have a very good video here to show you guys as well, but what's happening to brutalize is that the actual channel time of brutalize is going down, which means you'll be striking a little bit faster every single time. And you can see on the left, that is old brutalize from the current patch that is live in SMITE right now, and on the right is the new brutalize that you'll be seeing in 10.12. So a little bit faster, but not outrageously so. You can see towards the end there that you're getting those couple of extra strikes back in at the end. But the other thing to consider here is you're probably thinking, oh my god, more damage faster. But you can also Aegis this and more likely get everything off with that Aegis. So keep that in mind. It's a give and a take where certain effects may, be able to immune it or damage mitigate it or whatever it might be a little bit easier, but also just all of those other instances where that's not happening, you're a little bit more consistent, a little bit less time locked out.
Yeah, if you Aegis lasts 1.5 seconds. If you Aegised perfectly when he latched onto you on the old one, you could still Aegis the entire duration. You can Aegis the entire duration here if you do it early. So that counterplay hasn't necessarily changed a whole lot from the Fenrir side. We just felt, this ability is so good early, so impossible to use late. We've given this ability a million different things to make it be more castable in the later stages. But at the end of the day, it just took too long. So we did a little experimentation, went under the hood, and we're able to make it work. We've just shaved off. It's basically 0.05 seconds for each strike after the first that is faster. So that's why it goes from 1.5 total down to 1.35. It may not look super crazy when you're watching it in this GIF form, even though it is quite obvious. For me, it was like the sound. When I heard how much faster the sound was happening, I was like, yo, I'm like Sonic the Hedgehog.
I'm going fast,
I'm
dude.
so fast here. So I'm excited to see how our Fenrir players embrace or have feedback for this brutalized change.
Yeah, cool. So we'll have another spicy change like that coming in the pipeline a little later.
Yeah.
But we're gonna move now to Hu Yi.
Yes.
Yeah, Ho Yi just needs a little bit of help as a premier duelist in the duo lane. He is like I want to solo the enemy ADC character, but Ricochet just isn't quite dealing enough damage. We don't want it to instantly clear the wave when you max it, because if he can clear and duel that well, it's going to become problematic.
And the jungle, and the jungle bounces.
Yes, exactly.
There's a lot of things.
Yes, yeah. So that's a good thing to mention, is that 5% scaling on Ricochet gets a lot of value when you're hitting it 2 or 3 times on a jungle camp. That will matter quite a bit. And then his kit is just so focused around access to Mark of the Golden Crow. We don't want to give it to him too often in the late game, because he's really, really good at killing tanks that he has marked. But we want to give it to him a little bit more often in the early stages of the game, which is where he tends to struggle the most.
Got it. All good changes. So Nemesis is next on the list for a little change.
Yeah, so Nemesis is another character that kind of has been here or there across the battleground throughout the year and throughout even like the past couple of years. She's had her mini metas and then has quickly gotten shifted out of them. So one thing that we've learned from all of those metas is that ultimate is crazy. So you won't see any
really
ultimate changes
Ultimate's
here.
cracked.
It's mostly going to be around her safety and her ability to clear and still poke in the late game, because that's one thing that Nemesis does really well. She can kind of be this like nice middle ground between auto attack assassin or just regular power assassin. She kind of sits somewhere in the middle where she can do a little bit of both. We wanted to kind of acknowledge both of those styles and kind of fit a buff in a place that would help both of them. So Swift Vengeance, the first one, this is kind of addressing her safety. This is going from 14 seconds at all ranks to 13 down to 11. And essentially, this is to give her a little bit more of that ability to go in and out if she needs to, because most of the time that you're using this, you're not really going to get it up again by the time that you need it, really.
Right.
So that's kind of the biggest thing, is that this will at least be there for you if you do need it coming up after you try and engage a fight, because once that ultimate wears off, you're kind of a little bit SOL sometimes.
Yep.
A little bit.
So this should be there for you, again, when the time arises. But the next thing that's a little bit important as well to talk about is Slice and Dice, which is getting a little bit of base damage and a little bit of scaling as well. And so the important thing to acknowledge is that this may look like a small change here, but it's also doubled in the center of the cone.
Yep.
So the changes that you're seeing here are effectively 2 times as much if you're hitting it accurately in the middle.
Yep.
Cool. All good stuff. Nice. So for this next one, I hope you brought some sunscreen, because my bird bro Ra getting a little love.
Yeah, days are getting shorter. He's
Days are
not
getting-
happy with that.
We need some help. We all need some more Raw at this rate, man. It is crazy. Divine Light just getting a little bit of a scaling damage buff. This is an ability that takes a long time to go off.
Yeah.
Really more utility based. But for our Flashbang Raw players like myself, very excited to see a little bit of extra scaling there. And then Solar Blessing, one of those abilities that received a lot of changes with the healing changes in an earlier season. Pretty close to what we want it to be doing, and we don't want to necessarily give him more healing, because that's always a danger zone. But getting Solar Blessing a little bit more often, reducing that cooldown from 16 to 15, just to make it feel a little bit better.
Gosh, just use it offensively. That's all that matters. Just
Yep.
Offensive
Drop it on the
Solar
wave.
Blessing. Yeah.
Yep.
Drop it on the wave. So Shiva next up, getting a change.
Yes. So Shiva's another very interesting character, because again, he has never really found himself in the center of a meta. He's been there occasionally as a bit of a fringe pick, but we've never really seen him kind of show up consistently. And so we want to make sure that we're also acknowledging the parts of the player base that do see him quite a lot, and that is tending to be true, that he is very strong towards the lower end of things.
Yes.
We were very specifically looking for a buff for the higher end of things as well, for those high skill players to really be able to min-max super well. And so Pillar of Dawn is kind of the ability for that, where you can just use it as a regular dash, or you can kind of be this kind of beacon of strength for your team, where you can sit there and yes, you're standing completely still, but you're also giving out effects or dealing effects out to enemies. So when you're just sitting there hanging out, doing however long you want to do those effects for, you'll be getting extra damage mitigation there, so you're not just dying if you're sitting still. You're going to be, kind of able to tank a little bit more as well.
Yep.
Yeah, nothing like some tactful sitting still. So Tsukuyomi's next up on the list.
Yeah, so we removed knockup immunity from one mage assassin in Maman. We are giving knockup immunity back to Tsukuyomi on Kusarigama. And before everyone starts panicking, I'm
panic.
imagining the SpongeBob scene where everyone just runs across town. There's fire everywhere.
Yeah.
This Tsukuyomi had one of the strongest releases we've ever seen in Smite. Unbelievably powerful
Unbelievably strong.
on release. This was one of the first nerfs. This was a nerf in one of his first balance passes afterwards, where they removed the knockup immunity from Kusarigama. He also received roughly 100,000 damage nerfs,
Roughly.
give or take.
pretty close.
Max would have to give me the margin for error for that, but
Yeah, it's like 103.
a
But
ton of different damage nerfs over the years. This ability is just not nearly as strong as it was when it was, the players playing at that time, remember maxing Kusarigama, and you would just one-tap someone coming out of the jungle at level 9.
Yeah.
Schlap.
I
It
do
was great
remember
on the
that.
Tsukuyomi side. Not so great on the other side. We feel like Tsukuyomi really struggles. He's an assassin with a really unique identity that wants to keep the fight at a range before he picks his moment to go in. He really struggles when the fight is not started on his terms. When someone engages onto him, he has very few tools for survivability. You compare this to someone like Maman, who just lost knockup immunity. He doesn't have survivability anywhere near as good as Spirit sees. So we feel like we can safely add this back. We didn't want to necessarily give him damage because, again, these damage-oriented characters, low utility, it's just when our damage gets to, okay, I can kill, they instantly become very, very good.
Yeah.
So we're wary about that, but we feel like he could use this safety again, and Kusarigama is not immediately going to be nearly as good as it was when it last had
Certainly
knockup.
not.
cool. I'll play more carefully now, but I definitely agree. I think it'll be a good addition back. So Vulcan, who is first Worlds I ever watched, every memory I can think of, is here to rock and roll. So what's happening?
Yeah, so Vulcan, I feel like I need like a little like buzzer that says like data alert, data alert. So this one specifically is a bit of an interesting case because again, we're like, why is Vulcan not performing well? Like, what's going on here? Where's this problem? And so again, checking out those slices, finding different places for us to look at and compare. Essentially, the problem with Vulcan was his late game damage was falling off a lot. And you may think, well, he has 4 damaging abilities. What's really the problem? The problem essentially is that first up, Inferno Cannon just kind of doesn't scale very well. It's a solid ability in the early game, and even in the mid game, it does a lot of really solid work for you. But when it gets to the late game, it kind of just dies in 1 hit. So essentially, you're getting 1 pop from this bad boy, if you're lucky, maybe 2. And so we want to just make sure that that's scaling a little bit better for you in case you do want to max it, get this online earlier, and then scale even later with other abilities. Or if you're just going to let it be, just have the turret be at rank 1 for the majority of the game. It's still going to be doing that same base level of damage. It's just the later game that's going a bit more.
Yep.
And the second thing to talk about here is Earthshaker, the ultimate.
Whew.
This ability has a very low cooldown, but the problem is the hit rate on this ability, not very high.
Lower than the cooldown.
Not very
It can be
high.
hard to hit.
It can. So essentially, the easiest way to hit this, so we were like, okay, worst case scenario, I'm dropping this on my feet. But the thing with Vulcanol is that when you drop it on your feet, it does less damage.
Yep.
So we want to kind of bump that up a little bit so you're not as punished for going for the easy confirm ultimate at your feet. You still get that really big reward of the bonus when you go all the way out.
Yeah.
And you're getting that really sick snipe on Fire Giant, Gold Fury, under a Tower of Phoenix, whatever that might be. But in those situations where you're kind of just like stuck, you're getting dove on, it's not the end of the world for the Vulcan player.
Yeah, to just drop it.
To just drop it at your feet.
Rock and roll. Hey, that was a fun achievement. That was a hard achievement to get. The max range ult.
Yeah.
That was a lot of grinding, but it felt good. You hit it at the distance, you see it pop, and you're like, yes.
Yep.
I'm so happy I fed the last 4 games for this. Sorry, whoever was in arena that week. So one last change on the gods list here, and we have Ymir. And this one also has a fun little video we'll get to share with y'all.
Yeah, so Ymir, a lot of strengths. One really big weakness, which is that he's a big boy who stands still
He's a big
for
boy.
a lot of his kit. He stands still when he casts his 2, stands still when he casts his 3, stands still when he casts his 4. The 3 and 4 have a very strong CCs to kind of compensate for that, but the 2 is really just a clear ability, or you've stunned them and now you can actually hit it.
Yeah.
What we've done is we've reduced the pre-fire time from 0.45 seconds to 0.35 seconds. So now this ability, the shards still, or the carpet still goes out.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the shards exploding up out of the ice carpet now happen 0.1 seconds faster, which again doesn't feel like a ton, but will absolutely make this a more consistent ability to hit on someone who isn't already stunned, who is moving around, has beads, whatever it may be. And hopefully this ability can be more than just guaranteed follow-up off of your own stun or wave clear, and can be an actual ability that you can use to try and hit someone.
Just toss out in
Yeah,
combat.
the other important thing to talk about here is that, like, Ymir, when he's using this ability, is obviously rooted, right? But that pre-fire going down means you're rooted for just a little bit less.
Yep.
And even that just a little bit feels so nice. It makes him feel way smoother. And you're thinking, Lermy, 0.1 second? Is that really that much? I'm telling you, he feels like a new dude. He feels like a new character to play.
Whole new dude, huh? Well, super cool, yeah. And I mean, like you said, it's all these small numbers in a MOBA, right? It's 1%, it's 0.1 second, it's all this crazy stuff. But when you get your hands on it, right? Mathematically, it sounds, you're like, okay, that doesn't sound like a lot. But you get your hands on it, it's
But
crazy.
it feels
It feels a lot different.
So, but obviously, we'll leave that up to y'all. Y'all be getting in and figuring it out with PTS and with the update next week. So that does it for the balance, which that was a lot of good stuff, some cool spicy stuff. Again, if you missed any of it or feel like you need to go back, check out the update notes. It has everything listed, all the numbers and stuff, all that spicy stuff. But we have one more thing to talk about before we call this show to an end, and that is a new battle pass coming with the Season of Worlds. And like most things in the Season of Worlds, it is themed for the Worlds. It is Battle Pass World Champions. So the World Champions Battle Pass is an all-new Battle Pass, and it's huge. It has a lot of skins. It has 10 skins in total. 2 brand new ones, or more like 6 brand new ones actually, and some that you know and love, but we want to give you the chance to get back as we approach Worlds. So the way it works is you're going to be able to get a skin for every single team. So all of your favorite SPL teams are getting their skins. You're ready to throw them on the battleground, rep them, get excited. And the way that this battle pass works is as you work through it, you will be earning chest rolls. All of these skins are in the, I'm going to make sure I say the chest name right, It's written here somewhere, and I don't know how to read. So they're in the chest. I think it's the world chest or the esports chest. And you will be earning rolls as you progress through the battle pass to pick out of this chest which skin you want. The chest, it's not like rolling the random chest. You get to pick. So if you only get 4 of the rolls through the battle pass because you have a busy, you're busy, that's fine. You pick your 4 favorite skins. Now this will include 4 new skins and 4 of the existing esports skins, the ones that were already around for teams that were here last year. If you happen to already have those skins, you obtained them prior, don't worry about it. If you get all of the chest rolls, there's other opportunities for you to earn things, and you can also earn gems out of the chest as well. So if you weren't, you're like, I already have the 4 existing esports skins, then you'll get compensated for it. You're not going to get nothing, we guarantee it. Another cool thing about this battle pass is on the free track, we have a brand new Monster Cat music pack, which is pretty cool. So just out here repping more awesome Monster Cat music. So this one will feature tracks from Caster, Skylar, and Going Quantum and Have. So make sure you check that out as well. Again, on the free track. If you're not getting the battle pass, you're missing out on some cool esports skins, but you'll still get this really cool Monster Cat music pack along with some other things. So now it's time, I guess, to dive in. So I just wanted to give you a quick, you've seen this a little bit, but we wanted to give you a showcase real quick of just what all of the SPL skins look like. You've seen them throughout the video that we showed earlier. So they were the ones featured in here. So there's going to be 8 skins in total, 1 for each of the teams. And it'll just be a great opportunity for you to rep all these skins, which is really exciting. I mean, because Worlds is right around the corner,
I know. The esports skins, I mean, there's something good about just locking into God in a jersey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right?
The sunglasses, the headsets.
It's got a nice little charm to it.
Yeah.
It's a little cheesy, but it's also very fun.
Yep.
It's cheesy, but you're like, you know what?
In a good way.
Poseidon just got a T-shirt on. Like, that's kind of cool, Like, I just have a I'm wearing a jersey.
Yep.
So super cool, but that's obviously not all of the skins. Those are 8 of them, 8 of the 10, which is a ton of skins for a battle pass. That is a lot. So you can rep your favorite teams, or you can get one of these other ones, starting with Rainbow Warrior E-Shell.
Yeah, I've been excited about this one.
This one is really cool. So,
yeah, really, really sick for Rainbow Warrior E-Shell.
Yeah.
Okay,
there it
look at
is.
Yeah.
Look at this
I
skin.
saw this card art originally, and I was like, "That is E-Shell. That's crazy."
Yeah.
Yeah, you should see it in game.
Yeah, the effects are nuts. It's I mean, a little biased here personally.
Really? No.
But I think it's really sick.
No, I super agree with you. It's a really great skin, and we're not taking you in game for this one. This one you're just gonna have to see for yourself. So we like to save you some
This is
surprise.
a sick one.
Oh, I also wanted to say I was in a real mood when I wrote this voice pack.
Really?
Take that as you will. Yeah.
Okay.
There are some weird jokes. Like, I don't know. So, like, one of the playtesters was like, "Who wrote this voice pack?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that was me. I did that at like 3 a.m. That's on me."
Honestly, though, good content. Like,
Yeah,
let's
no,
be real.
it turned out well. But it's if you know my humor, you'll catch some of it.
See, that's why you got to watch this show, because otherwise you'd have no idea.
It's true.
You'd be like, what were they thinking when they wrote? So it's just aggro doing aggro stuff. So the last skin in this is one that I think is really hype. I think you'll all enjoy, and it's Camelot's King Maui.
The skin is just sick. I mean,
It is.
It's so good.
It's such a cool throwback to the performance too. I mean, they can't keep giving him Maui, bro. What was that?
It was
what was
hard.
that, guys? I'm kidding, of course. But this Maui, of course, is voiced by the same voice actor as Maui. Brent Mukai did an amazing job revisiting the role as well. But he's got a lot of fun references, a little bit of a esports bro vibe. He's saying, "Get in here, boys. We're going." He has some fun voice lines like "untouched, unscathed,
Iconic.
champions of the world."
Yeah.
Like a lot of those fun esporty lines. He even says like, "You're doing big man things." Like there's some fun references like that in there as well.
I love it.
So, it's a sick voice pack.
Yeah, and I mean, again, such a sick callback to such an amazing event. I remember standing there stage side as it all came to an end, like the cheering and the confetti, and it's just, man, I talking about this, it almost makes me sad because I'm like, man, Worlds could not come any faster.
I know.
To
I
be
can't
fair,
wait.
It's
planning it
almost
is a lot, and it's almost here, and like it's a ton of work, but it's actual just 65 days. Man, I am.
Is that it?
That is it.
Yeah, this
Oh,
this
boy.
skin is a love letter to esports, though. Even
true.
even beyond the voice lines, like a lot of the effects that you're seeing as well
We should see
are
'em
really
in
fun.
game.
Oh, we should.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll keep talking, but let's see him in game while you're talking.
There he is, right next to a statue too, over in the soul lane.
True. He's got his own statue. Look at that.
it's so cool.
Having
I mean,
the logo in game like that is just, oh my gosh.
Look, I wasn't exactly upset that my first god, who had just come out, was performing well at the World Championship. Maybe a little too well at times, but
He had a big nerf after that, huh?
yeah, he sure did. But I mean, it was the talk of the event was Genetics playing Maui and how well he was playing it, and afterwards everyone was saying like, oh, it's got to be a Maui skin, it's got to be a Maui skin, and so I've been looking forward to this one for a really long time.
Yeah, there's some fun jokes in there. We got a chest joke, we got a jeans joke as well, like it's in my jeans, I'm so good, it's in my jeans. 5-man alt joke is in there as well. Lots of fun references to the actual performance as well.
Yeah, so just like you said, a love letter to an amazing event, to an amazing performance, and to the world champions. So an absolutely awesome skin, and I think a really cool point to end this show on. So that will be the last skin of the battle pass, and check it out, throwing the shaka there. I absolutely love it. But yeah, so that does bring us to the end of the show, though. Just a world's themed season. We're all so hyped for it here. I don't think a day goes by that we aren't talking about worlds this or worlds that or what can we do. Like, it's going to be such an incredible event, and we are.
Wait.
Yeah, we are all
So close.
Like, literally, we were sitting here before the camera started rolling talking about worlds.
Yep.
It's literally every spare thought feels like it's going towards it, because last year was so fun for everybody that it's only going to be better this year, and we cannot wait to see y'all there and experience some more magic, I think. So.
Yep.
Well, cool. So, again, we've made it to the end of the show. That was a lot of stuff. If you've been following on the update notes, then you've probably absorbed a lot of it because you followed on the update notes. That's awesome. If not, you can check them out. But PTS should be coming soon. Keep your eyes up. Obviously, it's hard to tell exactly when it's going to come out, but it should be very soon, sometimes even right after the show. So just keep your eye on Twitter. We'll let y'all know as soon as that is up. And right after this show, y'all get to spend some more time with these two crazy people. So they'll be answering questions and just getting into it on the Dev Insight show. So make sure that you're theory crafting, you're thinking of all those questions, and sharing them with them right after this in the Dev Insight show. There we go. I've talked so much now, I think I've actually run out of words. So we're going to call it here. Thank you all so much for joining me.
Of course.
Kicking off the last season of Year 10. It's going to be a wild one. So we are on the countdown to the biggest event of the year, and I cannot wait to see y'all there. Thank you so much, and catch you later.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Dev Insight Show, so the show after the patch where you get to ask the devs questions through the Catalyst, which is me. I'll be reading them in chat. They have chat in front as well, so ask your questions about the patch, and if you say something dumb, it won't get asked. So it's gonna be
That is how it works.
The rules
usually
are very clear.
It's very simple. So ask whatever you want. I'm gonna start out because we've got stuff that I think is really interested in. The last thing we showed off was the Camelot King Maui skin for their Worlds performance. So did either of you, like, who was like writing the
That was me.
That was the Lermster.
Yes.
So when you put in Dave's like end call, like did you consider what that's gonna do to like his ego?
He messaged me about it yesterday because he made a tweet about it. It was so sweet. Honestly, like he was just so happy.
For those
about
of
the
you
whole
who
thing.
don't know Dave, when I say that, I mean he'll have like a normal human ego and not be down on himself. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you would think that guy is an egomaniac. He is actually the least
opposite.
egotistical
nice.
person of all time.
That is Mifflin unironic, like he loves that call. He
Yeah.
brings it up all the time. And for the first 6 months this year, probably still now, it just doesn't happen as often because Dave's not in the workplace. But if Mifflin referenced it, Dave thought he was making fun of him. It's like, no, like I genuinely love it. It was really good.
Yep.
I'm excited to see that. So thanks for putting that in there.
Yeah, that was like the whole thing with writing that voice pack was like how many little like esports references can we put in there? Like we've got even some ones like that are kind of like tongue in cheek a little bit where it's like he has a directed taunt to Cupid that's like, oh, that's what going stupid means. And I'm like, I was like, can I say that? Like, is that mean? I was trying to write that like the least mean way possible to be like, oh, I want to make nods to like players that they competed against and defeated, and they have like references to like even the Titans couldn't stop me, like you think your silly little Ravens are so good or whatever it is.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of like little sly references here and there that I hope are in good faith, good spirit that reference
Well, it
like
makes
all of
me
those
think-
like journey that they took throughout the whole
It's
thing.
like a spiritual successor, I guess, of like the
Yeah.
NRG skin, which has like
Yep.
the I'm a race car, where it's like that's such a weird, like if you're playing that now and you literally did not watch Smite Esports in that year,
Yeah,
you're
it
probably
makes no
like,
sense.
what?
Ice cream for the Yorm skin, where it was just
Yep.
like Aurora just likes ice cream. He just
Yep.
says ice cream when he
I feel like the last time we did one of these, by the way, I think it was me, you, and Clumsy instead of Aggro, and I think we did spend a lot of time talking about Andes. So I'm gonna avoid ice cream.
No, I think I was here.
Maybe
I
you
think
were-
I
You were
talked
here,
about
yeah.
Andes,
And we all went afterward, too.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
right. Because there was like a meeting, and you were all like, "We don't need to do that meeting." You're like, "Let's just do the meeting at Andes."
Yes.
So ice cream always comes back. I think we have our first question to actually pull up from chat. That's not just from me. So big fan. I was wondering if anyone had a birthday today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Studio Ghost 123. Someone does have a birthday today.
Ooh.
It's this guy. It's Gore Miser's
Hey.
30th birthday.
This has been plotted.
Gore, welcome.
I was genuinely thinking, I
to
was
the
like, oh, we
club.
don't have a broadcast. It's just like Dev Insight. Oh my God, there's like a 1-up mushroom on it.
For anyone who doesn't know, this is Hindu Man. He's the savage. He's a savage guy. That's how people know him.
Yeah,
It's like
he's the
says
savage, yeah.
stuff. It's like kind of his bit. It's like his brand, so to speak.
Was that good? Good icing.
It's okay, yeah. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I
You.
did the decorating.
You did the decorating?
That bit.
I really
It's
liked
actually pretty nicely
You know,
decorated.
I was genuinely certain. I was like, yeah, this isn't gonna happen.
Yeah, there you go. We got, of course, you know we got you.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Welcome to the Old Man Club.
Yeah.
You now, everything Lermy says, you'll be like, what does that mean? Because she's
Yeah, I'll see you
gonna-
guys in 5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Mifflin-
It's good.
Will very often and has very often. He's 25.
Yes.
Continually says he's pushing 30.
Yes.
And he
I
said
don't
that-
do that
She does
for the
not.
Yeah,
record.
does
yeah.
not.
So because you're a normal human being, Lermy, as it turns out. Because it was like 2 weeks ago. We're at dinner, and he says that, and I'm like, no, I'm legitimately pushing 30, bro. You can't be saying this next to
Yep.
me. But thank you, everyone in chat. Oh, that one. Hey, thank you, everyone in chat. I see you all saying happy birthday. I saw someone say,
Shout out
"Can
to
you
Gore.
sing happy birthday to Gore?" You don't have to do that.
I won't. No.
And if it makes you, that one person in chat who asked that, feel better, my friends last night, we were playing a game and we were all in using the in-game chat, and immediately midnight hit and they started singing it. So that was
funny. I
That's
like
so
that.
very
fun.
nice.
Yep.
Which, you know what? Since we're talking about me, that can include some other things that are in the battle pass, which is we have a bunch of caster announcer packs.
Yeah.
So for those of you out there, it's on the website, like Mifflin's, mine, J-Max, and Trelly's. And so did y'all listen to any of them?
No,
And
I have
which
not
one's your
heard.
favorite
I've
and why is
seen
it
the
mine?
scripts. I have not heard them, though.
I didn't even look at the scripts. No. What's your favorite line you did out of it?
For a death, I think I had, let me go grab my bagpipes, like for the funeral,
Yeah.
because you're dead.
Great. I don't like that one nearly as much. I was like, yeah, I was yes ending, and then I was like, wait, no. But yes.
I sent a screen cap to Katie when I wrote them, because I was like bouncing all of it off of her, because I was like, I want to make sure that these like hit and are funny as I think they are.
Right.
And I think the reply to all of my "you've died" calls are like, that was cyberbullying. She's like, that's just me.
that is just you for sure. No, I'm excited to rock all four of yours, and
Put it on rotation.
yeah, it's gonna be really good. I bet.
Oh yeah. All I know is that when I was recording mine, I remember we had in our work Discord something popped up that just said, "Is someone yelling in the studio right now?"
That's the
like,
right way to do it.
I was doing pentakill calls.
Yeah, you got it.
And then
It's,
I had to go cast after that.
Oh boy, I hope you were practicing your diaphragm.
I was drinking a lot of water too.
Attaboy.
It was a rough throat day for that one.
Yep.
Also, Iadios, I'm going to say it like that. So that their birthday's a week away. So happy early birthday to you.
Early birthday.
And I think we have another question that's not just me trolling. So I wonder if Aggro remembers how to say the name of Maui's hook.
So this is my boy Davion. Davion helped a lot with he's an Olympian member. He's a native Hawaiian. Was it good? Mm-hmm. Or was it really bad? Or you just realized
Punchier
that
than I
chewing?
thought it was.
Oh yeah, okay. I was
And I
like,
realized I'm right
the
next to
hand
the
went straight to your mouth, and I was like, is it really good or really bad? Like, what is?
Come on,
happening?
ASMR for the stream.
I'm not even trying to buy time, although I did have to think like at the time, what's it? What is like?
You've got
do
it
I
on your
remember?
arm.
I do. I have the Maui tattoo, and it's Manaya Kalani is what I believe. It's either Manaya Kalani or Manai Kalani. I forget if I'm adding an extra syllable there, and I can't remember if it's. I think it has to do with the sky. I forget. I've had to.
He
like,
did Lasso
try
the
to-
Sun with it.
Yeah,
I've heard.
he did. But very intimately familiar with the lore of him gaining the hook and all that kind of stuff. But I hope I did that right, Davion. Big shout out to him, the boy Cliff, absolute beast.
Yeah, it said you got it.
Yes, dude, let's go.
They said mahalo.
Yes, I can't wait. I can't wait to see you there, Cliff. I can't wait, man.
I think the only phrase that I've remembered and can keep from that is Mali Kaliki Maka, which is the Merry Christmas, right?
Yep.
And it's because there's so many Christmas songs with that. But it's too early for that, so we can't talk about that.
It is November, just so that we're clear.
Yeah, no, it is November, but it's before Thanksgiving in November.
Yes.
And so everyone has a different stance on that. And it is totally related to SMITE for us to talk and ask about exactly that. So, Lermy, your stance on Christmas music before Thanksgiving.
Here's the thing that I think is really funny. I'm actually Jewish, so I don't celebrate Christmas like throughout my childhood because I was raised in a fully Jewish household.
Sure.
So it's always been like kind of this phenomenon to me about like Christmas
You're like,
music
what's
that I'm
the
like,
deal with
what's going on, everybody? Why is my radio not like the same as it normally is? It's like November 7th that I'm hearing Mariah Carey going off. Like, what's happening? But you know, I think personally that December is the month for the Christmas holiday.
Yeah.
For really whatever holiday that you want to celebrate, regardless of, you know, if you actually religiously celebrate it or not. Like, I'll celebrate Christmas with my friends. Like,
yeah, of course.
It's a lot of fun. But I think it has its own place, you know. Just like, you know, Thanksgiving and Halloween. Although for me, Halloween is all year. So it's kind of like, you know, whatever you want it to be.
Sure.
Aggro. This is either going to be a great take or a bad take, by the way. Aggro only has hundreds or zeros.
Yeah, they're scalding hot. Here's my take. I think Christmas lights are immediately acceptable November 1st.
Okay.
Christmas music needs to wait
Yeah.
until after Thanksgiving. But I'm never going to judge anyone for Christmas lights.
You could tell me Christmas lights are like a year-round thing
I'd be
because you didn't
stoked.
want to take them down. Like, that's literally all I could imagine.
Yep, I'd be stoked. I love Christmas lights. They just make me feel happy inside.
They're cozy.
They are
Kind of like, I mean, at what, you know, most decorative places now would just call them like fairy lights, and you can change the way they look slightly, but like
they bang.
they're the same general gist.
Yep.
Now I'll ask an actual question regarding SMITE. And this one's just coming from me, which is really, you know, with Fenrir and with Ymir, you had pre-fire, you know, whether it was speeding up the brutalize or the pre-fire time decrease for Ymir. So I'm kind of curious, like, when you're looking at changes for gods like that, and like that's the change that comes up, how do you start that conversation instead of like cooldown or damage or mitigations or whatever it happens to be that's otherwise attached to it?
So it's kind of like twofold. There's like two pathways you get there. You kind of like follow a flow chart and they kind of end up at the same spot. So the first option is like, we're like, well, this just feels like the right thing to do. Ymir needs a buff. Let's give it to his 2 because his 2 is clearly the thing that, you know, might need the most help. That's just the instance that we get there for Ymir.
Yep.
There's like the other hand where it's like, you know, Fenrir kind of needs something. Can we do this? Is this even like a possibility? Because a lot of times we don't know. These are old gods.
Yeah.
You know, before both of our times designing gods, working on balance even. So a lot of times it's experimentation and like seeing, okay, this could be a possibility. Does this even work? Does the animation flow? Does it break any effects? Does it break sounds? Because, you know, you never know with the old characters that are from, you know, way back when, if it will actually work in that regard. So we kind of like give ourselves options and we say, this would be nice if this works, but if it doesn't, we have these other backup plans. So essentially we give ourselves like this whole like kind of list of options and we're like, let's test this thing because it's the cool thing. It'll feel really fun, feel really nice, make the game smoother, things of that nature. But if it doesn't work, we've got backup plan B and C and all the way to Z sometimes if necessary. Yeah,
exactly. There are lots of characters that we look at and go, well, you know, if we could, we'd do this. You know, we'd change this, and a lot of times we can because we're in a position to do that. A lot of times we can't because it requires a lot of help from other teams who are budgeted out for other things, you know, whatever it may be. And Fenrir is a good example of that, where it's like, yeah, I mean, we know brutalize being hard to get all your damage off in the late game is the core problem for damage Fenrir, right? What are our options to make that better without, you know, if we just gave it scaling, if he finds you alone at level 11 and he's maxing it, you're dead. You know, if we just give him more protections, then he's just bruiser Fenrir. You know, there's no perfect balance change period in my opinion. There's always a negative. But it was like, you know, I wish we could just speed it up, and then we were like, well, we can. I don't think it'll work, but we can try.
We did not think it would work. Straight up, we went into it like in a balance meeting. I'm like, I can do this like really quick on the side real fast.
Yep.
I went and changed the number really quick in our database, loaded it up, and it worked. And the
worked out of the
shock
box.
on all of our faces, and
We're like, yo.
that worked. Like,
And so it's 0.5 in between each tick of damage, right? It takes 0.5 seconds. It did take him 0.5. So we're going, okay, it's 0.5. Let's see what 0.4. Like that's our natural place where we would do it. It was like instant. Like it felt so fast, and we all like kind of looked at it. And we were like, we can't.
No, we
that.
can't do that.
Like that's too fast, right? Like that's too much of a change. So that's how we landed on like the 0.45, where it's like, okay, this feels noticeably different, but it isn't like that
It's
was
not
one of those
crazy.
Yeah, what have we done? Like, what have we created? Type of scary things.
Becomes like a monster of its own.
Exactly. We've done that plenty of times. It's not always easy to tell ahead of time, but in that one we were like,
Yeah.
we can't do that.
yeah, there are some that are like very obvious that it's like, oh no, that's too far. We've done too much.
We've gone too deep.
Yep.
And other times we're like, you know what? Let's bring it to playtest, see how it feels, and then adjust from there. And with this one specifically, we were like, we really want to test this, make sure this feels good. You know, we're not like scaring any like Fender players or things like that. And I think it has felt very good, actually.
I have to give a shout out, A, because you buffed Ymir on my birthday, so that's awesome. But B, because all of the other dev notes are usually like these well-written.
Oh, yeah.
And
That was all
Ymir's
there.
is just
So good.
What do you mean
written
Ymir
as
wrote that one?
Ymir.
Oh yeah, Ymir wrote that one.
Yeah, Ymir. Yeah, Ymir think it get colder outside.
Yep.
And you know what? Ymir smash you like pink. Like it's just,
So
I
good.
love it.
That was I legitimately laughed out loud whenever I read that. That was really good.
And unless I misheard, I believe we have a question lined up
Hey, all right.
that we can throw out. And if I did mishear, this is actually the one I was going to ask. So this is perfect. What is the tipping point when we are seeing classes and characters go off role that cause like dev action? Which I'm assuming this is inspired by all the mages that were in
Yeah.
solo lane. Like when does it be say when you go no more? We must stop this.
Yeah, I think we don't have a specific number that when it exceeds, anything, a bunch of alarms go off.
Yeah.
But
It goes 51%. The
yeah,
entire
like
room
the whole,
turns red.
Yeah, red. Exactly.
The alarms are going off.
Yeah, it's something where we look at stats multiple times a week. We heavily review SPL, pick rate, usage rate, win rate, all that kind of stuff. Anytime a class is not getting the majority of the play in its typical role, we would be having discussions about it. We would have already been having discussions about it by that point.
Yeah, the other thing to kind of consider in that as well is like, what is the community perception of it? Because
Right.
a little bit is fun. Like, at the very beginning of the meta, I was like, oh, this is neat. Like, we're getting little mages in here. And then it happened game after game after game. And eventually you're like, yeah, so where are the warriors at?
Yeah, if it were 75%, 25%, like 75% warriors, 25% mages, if those mages are overperforming, if the play style is unhealthy or out of line, then we would address those. But if it was just like, if you build your team comp around it and 25% of the time you just happen to pick a mage and they kind of do the same role and they're doing their thing, that's no skin off my back.
That's no problem.
I think that's really cool. I think that you can look at our history of balance decisions and see that we have basically unilaterally encouraged flexibility across different roles. There are also a lot of examples where gods like Serket or Longshen, they have gotten nerfed because they have been too good at those alternative roles.
Yeah.
But overall, I think we as a design team are very happy when gods are flexible and roles are flexible. We think that keeps it fresh and unique. But yeah, we never want to see picking a warrior be the wrong choice objectively for solo lane.
Yeah.
And you can't ever really get to 100% wrong choice, whatever. But between community sentiment and data, it was clear that mage solos were overperforming.
Yeah, and it also didn't really help that we didn't have bonus balance this last patch, which is just kind
huge
of
deal.
the way that the schedule works out. That tends to, make players a little bit more antsy around the changes because, again, we are in such a fast cycle that change is always coming, and it does feel nice to play with change, but you can tell, like, sometimes when there isn't enough change, and that also can reflect sometimes on our decisions and our, like, quantity of things that we're putting out and changing, that is also really important for us to keep in mind when we're going forward. So like if you're seeing patches like that are the 3-week patches or whatever it may be, that is another thing that we have to keep in mind in that regard, is what is going to be the thing that's going to be settled for these 3 weeks or whatever it might be.
It's also really interesting to think about because, like, at least for me, it feels like, and this is just the way live service updates work in general, but like the game that you would have played in like 10.1 and the game that you would be playing like right now on live and that you'll be playing in 3 weeks, right? It's really cool seeing like the different metas, and part of that was like the seasons, right? We were bringing in massive changes throughout the year.
And that kind of like ties back to this whole thing about like balance, and how balance is kind of like this fake sort of idea that it's like a game has to be perfectly balanced for it to be
that doesn't
fun.
exist.
It's just not
It's
a thing.
fake.
And like the thing about the cycle too that people always go back to say, like they say it in a negative way, that it's like, oh well, now it's a tank meta and then it goes into the ADC meta and then it's a mage meta, and it's like it always happens in this cycle, but that's just because everyone gets to have their time. Every kind of player gets to have their time, and that's not a problem in our eyes. It's just, what is the community ready for? What kind of changes and direction is different than what we just had,
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a lot on our like Titan Forge podcast episode with Clumsy. Highly recommend checking that out. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was so fun.
The goal is not to perfectly balance the game so that we can snapshot, okay, this is balanced, we're not touching it anymore. That's not what anyone would want.
It's fluid.
It has to be mobile and changing, and that's what keeps players interested. And we don't want things to be super overpowered, because that's not fun to play against. We don't want things to be super underpowered, because that's not fun to play as. But that's why we don't want those to be those things, not because it goes against the holy goal of balance.
Perfect balance. Once every single character in the game has 50% win rate, then we get 30 billion players, and then the game is just perfect.
Right.
That's not
We
reality.
actually get a government fund if we perfectly balance the game, because we've perfectly balanced it.
And what's crazy is that I know you have like this golden tome that has the perfect balance that was left eons ago.
Yes.
That we found under one of the pyramids.
Anpon wrote it in a fever dream one day.
He got a vision.
And like all you got to do is just like go in and do it,
But we choose not to.
Yeah, it's actively.
It's a very complicated topic, so I don't want it to be like, when we get this feedback, like it's bad feedback or anything like that.
That's what we want. We want that feedback for sure.
Exactly.
But like be nice about it.
Yes.
Let's be clear about that. Be nice about it.
It's more to say that the game is intentionally imperfect in the balance, so that things can be changed. There's room for more change, because change is exciting. Change is always a new thing for people to learn, a new thing for people to try, and it is a re-engagement point that is a very big part of why people come back every patch.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one, because I can shoot my Vulcanol at my feet and not feel like I'm wasting my Vulcanol. Immediately I'm feeling pretty solid about that. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. I think we have another question queued up. And the question will be, this is, again, another one that I was going to pull out, which gets a little more, I think, kind of nitty-gritty into specifics. But Fail Not, hunter-only item that has 20 CDR on it. So they're kind of curious, why not nerf that to maybe 10 CDR? Because 20 seems maybe counterintuitive for hunters to have. So what made you look at, I know during the actual patch notes or update show, you had said, like, hey, this thing does a lot. And so you kind of picked out, does it really need to reduce damage as well?
Yeah.
So what was it, I guess, that kind of made that one stand out over some of the other stats?
So that particular effect, I believe, was inherited from when we removed Poison Star. It got
removed off Envenom Deathbringer.
Yes.
It got moved from Poison Star to Envenom Deathbringer, and then off of that.
And we were like, well, we need to Fail Not at this point, so then we gave it that effect, and we were like, well, addressing everything that it had was like, well, it just has too many things. What's one thing that's like not a crazy thing that we can remove, but that will affect it somewhat, because it is still a fringe item, but I think it's fringe in a cool way, right? The 20% cooldown is a really unique thing that hunters don't really have a lot of access to, so giving them some place to access a bunch of cooldown reduction if they do want to go into that style of build is cool.
Yeah.
Like, that is fun, and it is kind of does work with the item in the fact that, that cooldown affects your ultimate cooldown, which then affects the passive of Fail Not. So it all goes together, right? So the less cooldown that item has, the less synergistic that item is in general, and you lose a little bit of that niche. So kind of we were thinking, what is the, not least impactful, but what is an impactful change that will not destroy this item, but will be, a change that can bring it down a little bit.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think the point of it being the only hunter item with 20 CDR, I feel like that's a strength, not a weakness.
Yeah.
Because that's how it's identified by the chatter. You know, like this is the only hunter item with 20 CDR. That's why it has it. That's its identity, right? And we can certain. You know, there are plenty of instances where we take away the unique identity strength because it proves to be too powerful. But I think that's something that we've really tried to focus on recently is maintaining or enhancing identity instead of just trying to make everything a little bit more well-rounded. We should make things strong in their niche. And we like that Fail Not has its niche and is strong in that niche.
Yeah.
We're gonna reveal that for some reason, like any update to Smite, they all blend together. Maybe it's just because of esports, right? And doing it, but like I can't remember when it happened. I want to say it was this year, but the last time I said that, it happened in season 8. So we'll see.
We've had things like that happen in Balance Meeting.
But I do remember that, like, very specifically, sometime in recent history, there was like a go through the item store, like, what is this item's identity? Let's make sure that, like, how many of these have these?
10-1 launch, right? If I remember correctly.
Yes. Okay. So I wasn't crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's still room to do that.
Yeah. But like for things to have their own identity is a good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a good concept.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think so too. And you know, there
Otherwise,
are.
it's all homogenous. I could
it's
just buy
tough.
everything all the time forever.
Yeah, it's tough because players don't. The items that are too niche just don't get bought. And sometimes we try and add another stat to make it a little bit more well-rounded, but not totally dilute the identity, and that doesn't always work super well.
Yeah.
You know, I think of like the Bloodforge change as a good
I was
example of
just
that. Where Bloodforge has always been very niche, has really never been high-level meta. It's been in the game since I started playing pre-season 1. And just hasn't been that good. What was that thumbs down?
Oh, is whether or not I wanted someone to take the cake away.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Yeah, you don't have the headphones on. You
I was
didn't
like,
hear. They were like,
am I wrong?
no, not you. That was
I
specifically for
second-guessing
Billy.
myself.
I like having the cake here.
Yeah,
I can't
it's,
eat it. I keep looking at it and thinking it really looks
I'm
delicious.
surprised Hindu didn't bring us some forks or something like that. That would have been
could
much
also
nicer.
understand though, and I guess
Well, yeah, it would've been
here the
worse.
option is now there. If we want, we can ask for plates and forks. But
I mean,
would you want to be eating during Dev Insight?
I would be
Show.
eating.
I ate
the
that
record.
cookie.
Yeah.
And felt 1 bad immediately because I was in front of a mic, and 2 immediately had to go for water because I did not
Well,
consider
it's not very. It's not crunchy.
it was
you know.
Well, oh yeah, that's not crunchy.
That's not
Yeah, you got a good point. But well, I guess a good cake maybe doesn't dry your mouth out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyways,
I had to drink some water.
yeah, we have to try and figure out the line between maintaining identity and also making things appealing to purchase.
Yeah.
And sometimes
Get it all.
it needs a little bit more well-roundedness to get purchased.
Little incentive, push in the right direction.
Yep.
I'm gonna alter this question to fit the thing I want to ask instead, which is just when a god comes out, you know, you've been playing it and you've got a mindset. This is what this god's meant to be.
Yeah.
And then a week later, none of that is happening. It's absolutely
gosh.
completely different. How do you how does that, I guess, feel from your perspective, and also like how do you then deal with that for like future changes?
It's strange. I'm trying to think of like a really good example of when this happened.
I can't really think of
I feel like it doesn't happen in live. It happens internally
Yes.
a ton.
So much, especially in the early stages. Like
Yes.
there were stages I can remember with Ishtar, especially, where I was like, she's gonna be this basic attack hunter, and she's gonna really play around this like switching of her basic attack style, and then it was like, no, actually, she needs to do other things, and I was like, oh, okay, let's work around that. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of that feedback early, which is very helpful for us, because the earlier it is, the easier it is for us to change things, which is both good and bad, because it's like, well, do we pursue this direction that's not really fully done yet, or
Yep.
do we shift? And it's always that question of like, where do we actually make this decision, because it's hard, right? Because
Yep.
it's not done at that point.
Yep.
You don't have all the full effects in the sounds or anything
Yeah.
like that. It's
really tough.
it's a very hard question to work around in that moment.
It's really interesting because when you play your god for the first time in that prototype stage,
It's so weird.
it's very weird.
It's very weird.
Sometimes things feel exactly like how you wanted. Sometimes you're like, I know that I've made a grave. this is not going to work.
Yes, the paper prototype to the actual gameplay prototype is a
Vastly
wake-up call.
Have either of you had a god at this point where like what you wrote down and what you got in that like that first iteration
Yes.
were like 1-to-1, like it was exactly what you
I was gonna say the
Like what we
opposite.
released?
yeah.
Like none of my gods
No.
have had the exact same kit from paper to release.
Yu Huang and Charon, I think, were the two that changed the most for me.
Yeah.
Charon's ultimate is so different now than it was going to be
Yes,
before.
it was really different.
Charon's ultimate initially at the very first paper design was going to be 3 swings of small waves, and they were just going to be fears that you could pull back. And then we had that as the prototype, and the like unanimous feedback was, this is really disorienting. And I was like, oh my god, how do I fix this? Like, what do I do? So eventually we were changing the size of the projectiles, the number of the projectiles, and then we got to the point where it felt really good, where it was one really big projectile.
Yep.
And then the point that it clicked was like, oh my god, what if we made this global?
Yeah.
And then it became this
Made it bigger.
really, really cool ability. It didn't have the trail in the back either that gave
Yep.
your team things. So just adding these small bits, not even like changing them, but even adding small things to them that like have a really big impact can be really fun too.
Yeah.
I know that happened with Yu Huang as well, where initially he was designed to have no CC
Yep.
on his 2. And it just made him so hard to confirm anything off of
Yeah.
it. I was like, he's got to have CC somewhere. He needs something. Let's give him a rudeness low. And then it just feels like this really nice 2-1 combo that is like super snappy now. So that change was like such a big pivot point for him, where he went from feeling like I can't do anything, I have no agency, to I can do it all myself.
Yeah.
So it was great.
Yeah, it was. It's such a weird experience too, because giving someone else the god for the first time, and you like, for me, the way that the process works from initial kit concepts to first prototyping is months in between. So I'm thinking about how to Maman is the best example I have. I'm thinking about how I'm going to be playing Maman for 3 months before anyone else even hears what she's doing, basically. Then it's another couple months after that that someone can find she's ready to be play tested by someone who isn't like looking for all of these really specific things.
Yeah.
I remember Chaos, I think, was one of the first other play testers to touch Maman. And I was like, yeah, so how were you thinking about playing around your passive? And he's like, oh, I really wasn't. But my damage was really bad. And I'm like, yeah, well, I wanted you to like really think about your passive. And he's like, oh, okay, well, I didn't. And it didn't really work. And I was like, and it's a really hard crossroads when you are in that position, because your iteration time isn't super long once you get to that stage.
Yeah.
And you have to make those calls. Like, we have to make pretty definitive calls after.
They have to go like
2,
pretty
3
snappy.
play
Like
tests?
if you're making those calls like in our position, it has to come
Quickly.
like within the first 2-3 weeks, or we're kind of locked out of that stuff, because
Right.
teams
We're dictating
are scheduled
dozens of people.
months in advance as well. So they're like, we have this many weeks to do the animation, the FX, whatever it is. And if we're at that time, we're basically asking them to like leave their schedule behind and get behind their schedule. So it has to be like either a really, really important change that we are like uber confident that this is going to be a great change, or we have to do it within that time frame.
Yep.
And that's just business. That's just how it is.
Yeah. It's so it's like, does that mean the loop doesn't work? Does that mean the kit doesn't work? Or does that mean that he just didn't get enough information ahead of time because everything is so temp to focus on that? And so I remember I had him play her again the next day, which normally we kind of go in a little bit more of a rotation. And I was like, think about your passive the whole game. I want you to come into this like you're scrimming in season 2, one-tricking your Giannis. I literally told him that. I was like, think about it like you're scrimming this character for the first time, and really think about utilizing this passive, because I need to know if this loop doesn't work or if it's just about how we're presenting it. And he came back and was like, I totally got it. It felt so much better. Like it worked so much more cleanly. And so it's like, for me, I play it, it feels like it works. Then someone else touches it and it's like, yeah, I don't think this is really working. And it's like, does that mean that the idea isn't great, that it needs changes, or that I've just had 6 months of run up that this person has had 6 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's tough.
That's the other thing too. Is sometimes you're in a room like with the thing that you're working on for so long that you just don't know like
you lose
actually
the
what it
forest for
feels
the
like.
trees very
And that happens sometimes as well with like the difficulty of gods, because that's another thing that comes up a lot. Is like we have to make sure that it's accessible to a certain extent, right? Like it's okay if there are things to master on gods, but a god shouldn't be like so reliant on a mechanic that if you don't know that mechanic, then you just can't play the god basically.
Right.
And that was something that came up for me. The one example that I can think of is like Ishtar 2.
Yep.
Previously was very, very hard to hit. It was a smaller number of lightning shots down from the sky, and the feedback was like, I can't hit this thing. I don't know why, but I can't hit this thing.
Yep.
And so we had to do a lot of like number crunching on that, FX adjusting to make it feel better, and then it went up to 4, and then all of a sudden it was clicking with people. They're like, yes, I feel like I can hit this, I can clear the wave with this, and I was like, phew, okay. You don't have to have like uber mechanical adapting level geniuses to actually hit this stuff, so we're chilling now.
Yeah.
It also, I guess, puts into light, because like, you know, we've been open about this, but like you'll have meetings where you go around to different departments where it's like, hey, here's this god, and brainstorm some things, and then whether or not that ends up going anywhere, I know ours get out of hand is the polite way to describe it.
It's fun though. It's a good time.
It's a I think very useful 30 minutes of an hour, and then the other 30 is TBD on the day. But like it's from that to like when you're actually like, okay, now you can play it. Like there were times I'd be like, I've got this meeting, I'm really worried, like I got to make sure I don't say like the name of this god, I don't like I don't mention this meeting anywhere, I don't want to spoil anything on broadcast. But then like 2 weeks later I've completely forgotten about them, and by the time we get to the point where it's like either playtest or straight up just release, I go, oh yeah, that guy. Like I completely forgot about Charon. I know we had conversations about Charon because I remembered Boys in the Boat.
Boys in the
Boys in the Boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know it's coming because Boys in the Boat was a heavy theme for Maui.
It was for Maui too. Like a month, it stuck around for a little bit. I think even some after that, like I can't remember who it was after that, but I do distinctly remember more conversations where we were trying to shoehorn in Boys with the Boat.
Yeah.
Similar to Blinds and Executes, which also always
We
get
meme
mentioned.
those a lot. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I remember during the Martikaras one, like Mifflin was on like a train or something. He was like, "What about a melodious roar?"
Oh yeah, melodious.
And he
Classic.
just kept as long as he got the word melodious in there, he was real.
Was that at the same time that the ghastly breath bit started?
I think so. That
They're
feels
so
like it went
similar,
hand in
right?
hand.
Like that feels appropriate.
He probably like he heard ghastly breath and then realized, wait a minute.
He's like, what if I just had a whole ability that
Like, just
was
melodious
built off
roar.
Melodious roar. Yeah, that, I mean,
he,
it is
he would
funny.
pitch different things for it. He'd be like, "Okay, so the third time this is like come up.
It's
He's
still
like,
melodious
the third, okay, it's melodious roar, but this time it's a melodious roar, not a roar that's also melodious."
Yes, yeah, that's the type of top-notch brainstorming. We get
That's
out
why
of
I said it's a 30. It's guaranteed good 30 minutes, and then
we get a little
TBD.
bit to the crap posting, but
I will say with Maman, I remember I started. We were in the meeting, but it was much more bare than they normally are because there's a lot of people in them. I remember I like looked at you and I said, "Aggro, do not write down what I'm about to say."
you said that to me too.
I dropped it in the first 2 minutes, and then I said, "And I'm sorry that's the energy I brought at the very beginning of this meeting." I like had
Did
to
I write it
apologize.
down?
You didn't. You started to, and then when the phrase I uttered, you closed your eyes, nodded, took your hands away from the keyboard, and said, "All right."
Yep, fair enough. Yeah,
We have fun. We have fun here designing gods.
I felt so
And
bad.
It's always cool because we have a lot of ideas that change so much.
Oh yeah.
And that's the other thing too is like you may like hear about like the like draft abilities that we're talking about here for other gods, but let it be known that almost every single time it is so rare for the draft like on paper ability to be what ends up in the game. Like even if it feels like, oh well that's just like similar to that. Like we also come to those conclusions and we're like, we need to do something about this. Like it can't release like that, you know, like it needs to change. Yes, this needs to change. And so we do. And then it ends up in a really fun spot. Like I think that a lot of the times when we hit that moment, we know it. We're like, this is it. This is the change that feels right, and this is gonna work now.
Yes, there's always a point where I am concerned that, holy crap, I've made the worst god of all time. This is terrible. It's not working. I don't know what to do. And then someone will suggest a change.
And then
it's been
you just have,
chaos
like, a
2 out of the
brain
3
blast.
times. Yeah, Clumsy saved Maui. Chaos saved Eshell and Mama, where all of a sudden it just all clicks. But it never. But you know, and maybe it just has something about where I'm starting. But
It's just a hard thing to do.
it's really hard
village.
to one-shot it for sure. You know,
Especially
maybe one day.
so late in the pipeline, like we're at.
Yeah.
There have been so many great designers before us as well that we, get to learn from, obviously, but that we also have to follow in their footsteps a little bit.
And do something different. Then.
Yes, and there's so many gods in the game, like 128 at this point.
Yep.
And it's like we have to make something different than 128 times 4 minimum or 5 minimum. It's a little bit crazy to think about that. So, people will sometimes talk about how, this is just this plus this, and it's like, yeah, that doesn't exist right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
It can be real fun. And also probably really, really challenging and makes me thankful that that's not something I'm tackling.
Especially if it's like the things that you're describing are both individually fun abilities that people like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is it so bad to have more
two
of those
real fun things on top of each other?
No.
I think
so.
I like this idea actually.
Yeah.
I know we have more questions that we
go.
can tackle and see where we can get into. So with the return to a standard arena after a lengthy period of Underworld Arena with the twist of the Pirate classes and the FG, will there be future experimental or like spicy changes to Arena? I'm going to expand this to any... Oh, I guess it says as well as for non-conquest game modes. I didn't even have to expand it. They did it.
Yeah, I think it's something that we're definitely open to. We also have to be wary that a lot of times those non-conquest modes are more like casual friendly.
Yeah.
And we don't want to add a ton of complexity to modes where that complexity will not be welcomed. Yeah, exactly.
It's difficult as well because when it comes to the casual modes, there tend to be more people that stick to their casual mode and don't really go exploring out of the box. Whereas like Conquest players are a little more flexible; they're more willing to go and play other things. But for instance, like your Arena players will stick to Arena, your Assault players will usually stick to Assault. Whatever.
And their real opinion about it too.
Yeah.
You ask an Assault player if they like Arena, they will give you a full detailed reason why Assault is better, and vice versa. Like they will get in your face.
Yeah. So it's not to say that we would never do things like that, but we have to feel like they are obvious adds to the mode that people are happy with, that we can be excited about. And I think that it is something that is cool and we do want to keep exploring. Obviously, we can't really talk about anything if we're exploring anything at this point, but it's things to think about for the future. And we definitely want to keep entertaining the non-conquest enjoyers.
Now all I can think of I think it was last year we did like a this or that with a bunch of the players where we just asked them, like pizza or pasta or something like that.
Right.
One was Assault or Arena, and no matter what they answered, they looked at me with a disgusted like that I would even insinuate that the other belongs on that list.
Right.
And what was funny is it was like dead even by the end of it. You had just as many who preferred one as the other.
Yep.
But like they were affronted that I would even pose the question to them.
Yeah.
And I think it started with the Ravens because they were all at the time Assault mains.
Yeah, of course. He's like the Assault main.
Well, I see someone say, I respect you, Assault mains. I'm not reading the rest just because I don't know where it's going to go.
Fair.
I'd be excited, though. I actually think it's worth mentioning because, like, the Arena Fire Giant thing, but, like, even the current Assault map, right, with the little Orbeez that heal you that I don't know the name of.
Healing orbs.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's, man, sometimes things are right on the nose. I thought they'd have something fancy. But that didn't used to exist. Like, it didn't used to zigzag the way it does. Like, there are changes to that map that have happened over time that, like, maybe would have been like, hey, this is, like, maybe a short-time gimmick. And then it's like, actually, that's kind of real good. Maybe we keep that in there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how
That's
a lot
happened
of those
with a lot of places,
Yeah, exactly. It's, we feel like we can get significant value without a lot of risk here. And if it's well-received, then why would we remove it?
And I think we do have at least one more queued up because it was 2 at the time. So what are your opinions on long seasons versus more regular updates now that you've had the experience? So I guess year 10, how many seasons? I guess this is the 5th, right?
one,
oh my God.
Versus,
Versus,
you're
hey,
telling
here's
us.
season 9. But you can do because in season 9 you still have those big changes. It just didn't come like as a seasonal. Hey, you have to make it a big deal.
It's an interesting question, right? Because you can come at this 2 different ways. You can come at it like as a player, like what as a player would want to do and would expect, and me as a dev.
Sure.
And how it affects me and my dev cycle. But you can also kind of think of it like as a company as well. Like, what is the most engaging, like, marketing level tactic for these kind of things? I don't really have an answer to that, at least, because I'm not privy to that information personally.
Yeah, no,
As a dev, it has been challenging to continuously try to find the next big thing that's going to top the last season. That is just a challenge that exists no matter what kind of patch cycle type thing that we're in.
Right.
As a player, I find it really intriguing doing the shorter seasons because it does give me this like new fancy meta or mechanic or thing to do or theme or any of these things. So that is really fun. But I almost do kind of also really enjoy the longer sort of like meta development that goes on sometimes. That can also be really fun. So for me personally, I don't think I have a very strong opinion either way. I think both are fun. They bring different styles of gameplay and development through a season, but there's not one that like really stands out to me personally as being better. Again, personal opinion.
There are positives and negatives to both sides, I think. I think when I think about this year as a player, or if I were still casting, I think I would really like the fact that this year is divided up into very clear splits on what, you know, the meta changes in the middle of a season, but there are stark meta changes season to season. And from a narrative perspective or a, you know, player perspective, that's definitely easier to follow. And you know when you're going to have something exciting, whereas, you know, before it might, you know that mid-season's going to be exciting and how it used to be. And then there will be like a random, you know, 9.3 or like 9.5. Great example.
Yeah.
Maybe the most drastic change SMITE has ever seen in the middle of just the middle of the year.
Thrown out.
Not the mid-season. Mid-season was 9.7.
Yep.
Which is also big.
Right, which was also massive. It was just at a different time. And so from that perspective, I think that there's a big advantage for the clarity.
Yeah, calling it Season of Souls versus 9.5. Like one is obviously like
Huge
a little bit
difference.
easier to tell like what actually happened during that
Right.
point.
I think that there are also like on the dev side, like when you know you've got your new season patch and your mid-season patch, those are your big splash opportunities. And there are, you know, other big patches big changes you can make along the way, but those are your targets. There are so many ideas that we have, so many things we want to do, and it's like, man, we have to really choose the one or two that are going to be the best, and that's what's in mid-season, and we'll fit these other ones down the line where we can. And that's like, man, I want to do all of these things, and that's where the multi-season structure is really cool, because we can do we got a lot of crazy stuff done this year.
I kind of can't believe it, honestly.
I know.
The stuff that was on that document in 10.1 to where we are now.
Like laughed at us if we were like, yeah, we're gonna do all this. I'd be like, you and what army? But
This army, woo!
exactly. It's been very fun to be able to do more splashy things more frequently throughout the year. But that also comes with its downsides of more, you know, meta instability, bigger chances of big misses, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think I don't know that I could say definitively one way or the other, but yeah, I hope that
They're just different, you know. It's just a different experience.
The analogy, I realize I've somehow gotten myself known for like really weird analogies, which admittedly kind of makes sense when I listen to myself cast. But immediately I could think of like if you were serving a dish, you're a chef, right? You're putting something out and this one takes 5 minutes to cook. You're just going to, you know, it's still fancy, still delicious, but it's quicker, easier, put it out there. Or like a chili, a stew, or something that's like, hey, I'm going to cook this for 4 hours and let it like simmer and see where it goes, like what you start with and where it ends up. Like if you left 10.1 until July, the game would still probably be very different by July, but it'd be different in a different way than all the different
That's something that we talk about sometimes too, is that we're like, is there even enough time to like solve each meta as it comes and goes? Like probably not, but
I don't think even it, you know, let's look at some of our previous pre-Worlds patches. The meta has never been solved before the SMITE World Championship. Yeah. Right? The meta has literally always changed in the middle of the event.
And it's within 2-3 sets. Like that third set, for some reason, it's like, oh, this guy, like, I didn't even prepare for this god. I don't know his ability names. Like, I gotta go home and study real fast.
Yep. Like I said, like I say it a lot. We could totally like snapshot the game as it is right now, let players play on it for a year, not a single change. the game would look completely different.
Yeah, like one of the things that I like to think about kind of in that regard is like Smash Melee has been the same way for a decade minimum at this point. And that game still changes year to year.
Which now makes me, this is like the season of worlds. So what is it in this patch that you think in 2 months now, oh my god, 2 months is going to be like, that's the sleeper, oh my god, no one realized it until now? This is a hard prediction to make because sometimes it's never.
Sometimes we're like, that god has to be good. He has to be good. And then we pull up the stats and we're like, oh, that's my favorite bit now. I think that's your favorite bit too. Is when I'm like, all right, Max, Innocent Rabbit, our data guy that comes to our balance meetings and like pulls up his fun charts. I'm like, Max, tell me about, I don't know, Ymir. And then he goes, Ymir, you're not going to like this. And I go, oh, no.
She's like, surely he's terrible. And he's like, he's top 5 win rate in the game. And she's like, what is this?
That's
a total, not
actually
real.
The case. That's just made up for illustration.
Trust me, I know. I've played with Ymir players out there. There's no way that guy's top 5 win rate right now.
No, almost. But yeah, it's hard to say for sure. I think Nemesis is my pick.
You feel like Nemesis?
She just is. It's something that we are usually very wary about, but also is kind of unavoidable. Where she's gotten a couple buffs over a not super long period of time, like over just year 10 in general. And we give a god a buff. No one really, it doesn't affect their play rate. We give a god a buff, it doesn't affect their play rate. We give a god a buff, doesn't affect their play rate. We give a god a 4th buff. Now everyone starts playing that god and they're like, yo, this is OP.
They're crazy. That happened to Mulan most recently that I can like imagine.
Guan Yu, RDO. You can go down the list of gods that have gotten that treatment where they get buff, no one plays them, buff, no one plays them, buff, no one plays them, buff. Super OP, unstoppable.
Suddenly,
You nerf them beyond where they were. They're now worse than where they started, and they're still getting played.
And what's funnier to that is you always see, at least I always end up seeing, like, oh my god, I didn't even realize this person did something that changed 6 months ago. It's like, I
mean, that's just it's an inevitable part of the machine.
I feel like Nemesis is a good pick. And I'm gonna go even further, and I'm gonna say that I anticipate for some reason the qualies before Worlds Cthulhu is gonna be obnoxious, and that's gonna herald in
you got a buff last match.
The Nemesis.
That
being said, I think Lasbra has been playing Nemesis like off and on. Cynos, yeah, you're right. So,
because we were
you're right. If I'm gonna guess anyone's playing something that's not meta.
We were looking at like the players of like the gods we were buffing. Like, is this god getting played at all in the SPL? And we were talking about Nemesis because we were like, do we need to? Should we do these Nemesis because her stats were not good, but she was getting played in the SPL. So we were like, okay, well, who's actually doing it? Like, is everyone playing Nemesis? And we were looking, and it was like, Cyno again.
Yep.
I know. And
You'll never guess who else.
We've got pretty big Nem buffs. We're like, oh man, can we even do it still? Like, she got picked 3 times, and then it was like, oh, it was just Cyno 3 times. We're probably fine.
And
especially because Cyno was such an eclectic god.
Because
we'll play whatever
the Nemesis, he played Bologna Jungle, and I think he won with that pick as well. So like, sometimes it's just a Cyno diff, right? You can't you can't account for all of it.
Brooks Maddie, like it just happens.
It just happens. But yeah, I think for me, I would have said Ishtar, but she started to show up again, which she hasn't changed at all. And yet here she is.
If she's showing up now, it's not happening in 2 months.
So we're gonna keep an eye on it. Again, we still have multiple points of balance that we can have. Again, we got bonus balance coming up before Worlds. So again, if anything gets out of hand, we will be able to adjust beforehand. But like I said in the update show, we are not trying to shake up too much before Worlds. There might be a couple buffs here and there, nerfs here and there where needed, but nothing insanity like, oh my god, I'm changing my entire build path, the week before Worlds. Like, we're not trying to do that.
And what's great, this is going to be awesome, are you ready for this, is that you get to see this patch played with the top 6 competitive SBL teams. If you tune in next Thursday, that is November 16th through the 19th, which will be the Road to Worlds playoffs. It's going to be the qualifiers. 4 teams immediately are going to be going to Worlds from that event. So like, you're going to want to make sure you tune in to know A, who's going, B, their seeding, because like they get to choose their opponents from the bottom 4 teams, and then C, like what gods you should be playing on the new patch. Because by Sunday, in theory, they'll have figured out at least the most recent changes.
Yeah.
And then by the time we hit anything in December, where we have some like SEC like qualifiers, things like that, everything that we learned next week will be different. So it'll be really, really fun. And then by the time we get to the January qualifiers, which is just literally 2 weeks later, but it's 2 vacation weeks, which are real long time.
Yep.
Everything will be different, and then somehow it'll change at Worlds again too.
Yeah.
So you got to stay on your toes. But it's going to be really fun. But Aggro, Laramie, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for answering
having us.
questions. Of course, chat, if you didn't have yours answered, they might not like what I'm about to say, but you could just tag them on Twitter if you really think if you think it's worthwhile, because otherwise you might just get blocked. So you got to think real heavily about it.
We're not going to block you unless you're rude.
And rude.
That's the thing. Is
Okay.
if
I
you
might
bring
not
us-
respond. But
We
This dude
read,
has like a baby,
it.
bro.
Yeah.
He's got stuff to do.
yeah.
we read basically everything.
Yes, I
we just
read
don't have
literally
enough time to respond to everything.
I was very surprised with you because during the update show, you straight up were like, "Yeah, I've read like every Mammon
Every single one. That's ever
like
been
thread."
made.
It's part of our job. We just have to know what the community perception is, right? And what better way to do it than reading Reddit, Twitter, even Facebook sometimes. I'll go on there and check out what they're having because they have
That's
their
deep,
own.
bro.
YouTube comments I look at.
Those
Twitch
guys are mean to
stats.
me. I don't like reading them.
Yeah. No, they aren't the nicest group.
I
I'd
opened
say.
one, and I wasn't even looking for the YouTube comment. I opened the video because I was just like, "Oh, I'm going to grab like a clip for my reel," and the top comment was like "Firecore" or something, and I was
What
like,
the heck?
"Okay, man." I was just like, I thought I did real good. I was coming here for my job.
YouTube comments are a lot like my opinions. They are either extremely cruel and
Yeah.
mean, like the 0 out of 10,
Or they're
they're incredibly wholesome.
hitting
like,
the notes.
Just they're so nice. There's no in between on YouTube. It's just the total polar opposites there.
Yeah.
It is. I will admit, I didn't think about how different like the opinions would be, though, right? Because
Between each platform, they're
Oh,
so
they're
different.
very different.
They're so
I can
different.
imagine, and man.
And even the people that don't like make any comments on any
Yeah.
of that, like that I'll run into in my ranked games, and they're like, "Hey, Lermy, can you nerf this?" And I'm like, if we win this game, no, I'm joking, I'm joking.
Yeah, if I get you in 2 more games and we win all 3, then I'll consider it. But yeah, no, thank you for hanging out and
Thanks for having us.
for
And
doing
on your birthday, no
and
less.
on my birthday. No
You
less.
hosted us
Happy
on your
birthday.
birthday.
On my birthday. In fact, I'm gonna go do dinner soon, and maybe you know what? There's cake right here. I'm gonna
That's-
eat some
that's
cake.
dinner.
I forgot about it. It's just been sitting there. It became a piece of the set to my brain. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. Thanks everyone for watching and asking your questions. And if you didn't, then you can tune in the next time we do a Dev Insight, or just ask your questions wherever they have it. Again, they're active everywhere, as we have just learned. So that even if it doesn't get answered, it's getting in the brain.
Yep.
So that's what matters most. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks for all the birthday wishes. And we'll see you next time.
Peach it.